Call this meeting to order. I would like to thank tonight's presenters and thank everyone for joining us in person and via live stream. Thank you for being here. We are going to have our pledge by Tom Klein.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All of our board members are in attendance. There are, let's see, we would like to, first of all, there are a few addendum materials. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the addenda. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? The motion passed. For this meeting, would like to start with awards and recognitions with, I'm not sure which, let me see which ones. Yes, I just don't see which ones, but that's okay. Courtney? I don't, let me see if I can.
Good evening, Madam Chair, trustees, Dr. Howell, Ms. Johnson, and student representatives. Oh, no, is it? I think it is.
Yeah.
Maybe? Okay. Right into that. Thank you and good evening. Tonight we will recognize several individuals who, through their actions, support and embody our district's mission to think more, learn more, and be more together. First up, we have our Cake Award. It's our Student of the Month for May, and this is our last Cake Award of the year. So School District 25 believes a safe, supportive, caring, and respectful environment is critical to student learning. The School District 25 Education Foundation, in partnership with Johnson Family McDonald's, supports the Learner of the Month Award each month to recognize one elementary learner and one secondary learner from our district from October through May. The Cake Award celebrates positive character, attitude, kindness, and encouragement toward others, and nominations for the Cake Award are submitted by a teacher who has observed the nominee's behavior and are approved by the school's principal. In addition to being recognized before you here tonight, the nominees will get a gift card for the recipient and their teacher from McDonald's and a $50 donation to purchase books in the recipient's name, and those are both courtesy of Johnson Family McDonald's. So first up, we have our Elementary Learner of the Month, Crosby Arnold, and his teacher, Miss Mallory Davy. Would you both join me at the podium, please? All right, thank you so much for being here. So Crosby Arnold is a 5th grader at Lewis and Clark Elementary School, and he was nominated by his teacher, Miss Davy, and she wrote in her nomination letter, "I am delighted to nominate Crosby Arnold for the Cake Award because he truly embodies positivity and kindness. With a smile always on his face, Crosby has charisma that brightens the day of everyone around him. I've never seen him without a grin from cheek to cheek." Are you showing it? Way to put you on the spot, right? His cheerful demeanor creates an inviting atmosphere and making our school feel more welcoming and connected. Crosby's positivity is contagious. Whether it's in the classroom, during group activities, or playing football out at recess, he approaches every situation with an uplifting attitude. His encouraging words and genuine support motivate his classmates to give their best, even during challenging moments. I've seen him lift the spirits of those around him, reminding us that a positive outlook can make all the difference. Crosby also leads by example, demonstrating integrity in everything he does. Upon talking with Crosby's 5th grade teacher, Miss Vega, she shared some kind words saying, "Crosby is such a great learner. He always has a positive attitude about any situation and always gives his best effort in everything that he does. Crosby never hesitates to help any of his peers when they are in need." Crosby Arnold is a shining example of positivity and kindness. His ever-present smile, supportive nature, and integrity make him a deserving candidate for the Cake Award, and I'm grateful to have him in our school community, inspiring us all to embrace kindness and positivity every day. Wow, Crosby, thank you for being such a shining example of positivity and kindness in your school. I have this certificate for you, as well as congratulations, our board members.
Thanks for the nomination.
All right.
What a great representative to end the year off.
Thanks for that wonderful recommendation.
So nice.
Okay, and next up, we have our secondary school learner of the month, and I would like to invite Mr. Will Kosmicki and his teacher, Jason Stuckey, up to the podium, please. All right, awesome. So Will is here, and Will has his faithful companion, Solomon. If you've ever seen these guys on the soccer field, Solomon is always in accompanying Mr. Will. So Mr. Stuckey wrote in his nomination letter, I am honored to nominate Will Kosmicki, a senior at Highland High School, for the May Cake Award. Will embodies character, attitude, kindness, and encouragement every day in my math class. Though he faces challenges, Will shows up each day with a positive attitude, determined to learn and build friendships. Will is an active participant in class, always giving his best effort, even when things don't come easily. No matter what his grade is, Will's perseverance, work ethic, and determination speak volumes about his character. He never lets difficulties discourage him, and his presence brightens the classroom. His kindness and genuine attempts to connect with others make a lasting impact on his peers. Will is a beam of light, bringing warmth and encouragement to those around him. His resilience and dedication to both his education and his relationships make him highly deserving of this recognition. I am grateful to have him in my class and inspired by the example he sets for others. Thank you, Will, for the positivity and leadership that you show in your classroom environment. Thank you for the nomination.
Congratulations, thank you.
Mrs. Will, keep up the good work.
Good job.
And good luck to you. Thank you.
Thanks for that, sir. You bet.
Hello, Solomon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've known that young man for a really long time, and he is all of those things and more. Okay, next up, we have our May Pies Award recipient, and this is for the Employee of the Month Pies Award, recognizing our employees who positively influence educational success. And this award is for employees who go above and beyond in that effort. And Pies Award recipients receive a $50 gift card from Lookout Credit Union, our educational partner for this award. So I would like to invite Ms. Kimberly Crowder and Ms. Janelle Harris to the podium with me, please. Thank you for being a stand where everybody can see you. Don't hide behind you. Okay, so Kimberly works in the district office as the Special Education Medicaid billing, and she was nominated by Janelle Harris. She manages our Special Education Medicaid billing for the School District 25. She was nominated by Janelle Harris, Director of Special Services. Kim is recognized for her exceptional dedication, technical skill, and commitment to supporting educational success through her work. Ms. Harris noted that Kim has taken on the complex task of Medicaid billing with professionalism and precision. Her work ensures that the district remains in compliance while also maximizing available funding, resources that directly support learners with disabilities and diverse learning needs. Kim's understanding of the connection between accurate billing and increased revenue plays a key role in expanding services and support across the district. Beyond her assigned duties, Kim routinely goes above and beyond expectations. She spends countless hours outside of the workday conducting audits and finalizing detailed work to ensure every aspect is accurate and compliant. Her commitment is not only evident in her work ethic, but also in her motivation. She consistently prioritizes the needs of learners and the programs that serve them. Thanks to Kim's efforts, the district is able to provide access to specialized instruction, adaptive technology, and individualized support systems that help learners with disabilities succeed. Her contributions have a lasting impact on both the operational effectiveness of the district and the academic and personal outcomes of the learners it serves. Kimberly Crowder exemplifies the qualities of positively influencing educational success. Her attention to detail, sense of responsibility, and deep commitment to equity make her an invaluable part of the team and a deserving recipient of this recognition. So please join me in congratulating Miss Kimberly Crowder. Hello to our board members. Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Thank you for
Thanks for all the hard work. Yeah, water.
I'll go. Okay. And that concludes our recognitions. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from our student representatives. We'll start with Century High School.
Good evening. To start things off, our drama
Can
department.
you introduce yourself?
Oh, yes, my name is Beza Masu.
My name is Lily Orgel.
So our drama department recently finished off their spring play, Weird Sisters, which went pretty successful. And last week, they went to the Patty Duke Awards up in Boise, and they won the best musical for the whole Idaho state for Big Fish. And one of our students, Kevin Wilson, ended up winning the Jimmy Award nomination. So he will be going down to New York City and will be performing in a Broadway and competing for the Jimmy Award Nationals. And our band recently held their last concert, finishing off their season. And our Century Singers is also having a concert tonight at 7 to finish off their last final concert. And with graduation creeping up, we are having a graduation ceremony for our National Honor Society members, as they have completely finished all of their service hours as well as maintaining their GPAs. And as AP season has finally closed off, Century had registered and taken 550 AP tests. And to celebrate this, our AP Physics, today they went down to Lagoon as a little field trip where they're having their annual Physics Day. And this is where different physics departments like the USU Physics Department as well as INL come down to have fun little activities where the physics class can apply their newfound knowledge to real life.
Moving on to the athletics at Century High School, our tennis boys team won second in state and our girls got fourth. We had back-to-back boys double academic state champions, Daniel and Liam McGee. For track, we had several boys academic state champions, one of which was Ethan Hansen, who was a sophomore. He won first in the 3,200 and second in the mile. Emriel placed third in the 100, Ammon Benton placed third in the 3,200, and Ajo placed third in the long jump. So as the seasons have closed, we're very proud of all of those athletes who competed and those who placed. In student life, we are having our final senior assembly tomorrow. This is where we celebrate our seniors and we pass out our senior superlatives. We have our senior party on Thursday, which is the last day for seniors. This is where we give them their yearbooks, offer them the chance to sign the snake tunnel, signing off that they went to school here, they graduated, they did it. And we always give them a fun treat, and this year it's going to be pina coladas. And then finally, the memorial, our field is used to put the crosses out in the field for the Field of Heroes. And we have plenty of Century students who help set that up and are there to help honor. And that is all we have for Century.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Do we have representatives from Highland? Pocatello? Okay, you guys won tonight. Okay, so we will now move on to public and written comment.
Communications report. Communications report.
Okay, now it says for review, so Courtney will present our public relations. It said for the, as for information purposes, but we'll just,
Oh, it was in the addendum because I didn't get my report done until today, so.
oh, okay. I just,
Okay.
I wanted you to come.
So in your packet, in the addendum, you have the monthly communications insights and just some really amazing stories to share from our district. Most of it's self-explanatory, but I do want to draw your attention to a couple of things. On page 2, YouTube really has stepped up as an avenue for us sharing information and the responsiveness. So I wanted to draw your attention that it has kind of joined Facebook as one of the most effective tools, and that really as a result of the You Belong campaign here and really increasing our visibility on that channel. So we'll continue to do that. Ever since that campaign, our views have been skyrocketing. You'll notice in there, on Facebook, we had 367,000 views again last month, which is really good. Our net follows was 35, so we just continue to keep increasing that audience just little by little, so that's great. There's some stats on the live streams for you to see who's tuning in to our live streams with our board meetings and negotiations. We averaged 99 views per stream, and there were 11 total streams with those negotiations. I think it topped out about 200, and bottomed out about 55 per episode, if you will. On page 3, we have our top performing posts, and you'll see in just a moment, we went through the activity of the Simplot Inspirational Teacher of the Year Award, and we really pushed those out for 2 weeks for all of the 18 nominations or finalists. And so those posts topped out with our highest views and performance for Mr. William Hawk, who teaches at Irving, and then Ms. Sheena Phelps, who teaches at Jefferson. On page 4, I put in the most watched video, which was the video that we created for the 100-year celebration for Irving. That got quite a few views and lots of minutes watched on that one, so that was kind of fun. On page 5, I will invite these gentlemen here next month for recognitions, but I wanted you to know who did, and if you didn't see it on Facebook, who was announced as those Simplot Inspirational Teachers of the Year. So Ray Drysdale from Pocatello High School, David Beckstead from Irving Middle School, and Mick Morgan from Jefferson Elementary School. So that's always something fun that Simplot Education Council puts on every year through nominations solicited through the community. They received so many nominations every year, 2,617 written nominations and letters of support for these inspirational teachers in our district. So it's really something to celebrate. On page 6, I wanted to draw your attention that we had 4 learners from our district that were selected as the ISBA's Slate contest. Now that's a magazine that's published, I think, twice a year by ISBA. And so those elementary schools were from Hawthorne Middle School. I think they were all from Hawthorne Middle School. Mm-hmm. So 4 of them, and I've listed those here for you along with the photographs of what they submitted. So that was kind of a neat, unique thing that our learners are doing. On page 7, I wanted to give you some stats for Everyday Matters because we really put a lot of effort into that campaign over the year. And I wanted to show you that that is something, every day does matter, and it's showing through our efforts. Chronic absenteeism fell by 2% this year. That's a 4-fold improvement over last year. So I think that's something to celebrate. And it translates into 234 learners that went from chronic absenteeism to achieve regular attendance. So that's something that we really want to celebrate. That's quite a number. And then our truancy incidents dropped by 50%. So we are going to continue our attendance work. We do have the attendance committee. So we've already got plans in the works to fold in that campaign into You Belong Here. It fits perfectly with attendance to celebrate that sense of belonging and encourage people to be in school every day. So that's something that we'll be working on during the summer. And I've just got some next steps for you to review at your convenience. On page 8, we have the results from our Idaho Gives campaign. We had a very successful campaign, raising $12,741. We increased our monthly payroll deductions, which is really the point of this campaign for the last 2 years, and we increased from $1,067 to $1,575. So we're really happy with that percentage increase. And that translates, if you think about that every month, that translates into quite a number of dollars that we can put directly back into our schools. And that's really where that money goes for, is for those classroom innovation grants. And then last but not least, on page 9, I really wanted to share this with you. We had 6 School District 25 athletic teams join our strong legacy of academic state champions. Boys track from 6A Highland, 5A boys track from Century, 5A girls track from Pocatello High School, 5A softball from Century, 5A boys tennis, 6A girls tennis, 5A boys tennis from Century, 6A girls tennis from Highland, And they have joined we have 42 academic state champions since 2019. And I just think that is a spectacular number to celebrate and something worth sharing with you tonight. So that concludes my report. Oh, and I wanted to remind you, tomorrow we're doing a groundbreaking ceremony for the Rails West field at Pocatello for Pocatello baseball. So you should have an invitation for that. It's at 5:15. Please join us if you are able. That's another thing that is worth celebrating. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. We will now move on to public and written comment. Written comment was received, and it's included in the addendum. Before we start with our public comment, I'd like to note that no action is taken in regards to scheduling a meeting for revisiting the Franklin track issue, but because we had 2 board members request to revisit the track decision, as a result of significant new information that has been presented by a number of different sources, including members of the public, coaches, members of administration, students, and parents, that may be considered. But because of some procedural rules that need to be changed, we're advised to change some board protocols before this request may take place. So we would like to move on to public comment, starting with Kendra Steele.
Either one. Stand or sit.
Yeah, I look the same as our standard says. Okay, hi, my name's Kendra Steele. I am a parent of 3 children in the school district, and I am recommending to implement the Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps, or JROTC program, into School District 25. JROTC is a cutting-edge leadership and citizenship program that consistently moves forward to improve a cadet's leadership, social, emotional, and academic skills. The program includes classroom academic studies, character education, team building, leadership opportunities, intramural competitions, field trips, and unique training opportunities. JROTC does not recruit for the armed forces, nor do the cadets have a service obligation. JROTC also does not conduct combat skill training. JROTC is a highly visible program with many benefits and advantages for the students, the school, the parents, and the community. The instructors are positive role models selected based on their honorable military service, experience, training proficiency, and expertise, people skills, and professionalism. Any instructor who doesn't uphold these traditions can be disciplined in accordance with school and school district policies and potential decertification as a JROTC instructor. The benefits of having a JROTC program in the school are a new curriculum, student leadership development, character education, and life skills. Other benefits include increased parental and student involvement, higher student attendance, higher graduation rate, and decreased discipline problems. JROTC provides access to a nationwide support network. There are a myriad of benefits in the JROTC program to the students, including earning credits for graduation. Cadets participate in a nationally accredited classroom curriculum, as well as in co-curricular activities where they have the opportunity to demonstrate the leadership, teamwork, and decision-making skills they developed in the classroom. Some of the co-curricular events include archery, Raider Challenge, robotics, Cyber Patriot, Cyber Start, JROTC Cadet Leadership Camps, and STEM camps, the National Flight Academy, and the JROTC Leadership and Academic Bowls, among others. JROTC's primary purpose is to instill in students the values of citizenship, service to the community, personal responsibility, and a sense of accomplishment. While military training remains a core component, the program also emphasizes leadership development, character education, and physical fitness. Today, JROTC has units in over 1,700 high schools across the U.S. and its territories. These units are sponsored by the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps and operate under the guidance of active duty or retired military instructors. Participation in JROTC is voluntary, and students who complete the program are not obligated to join the military. However, they may benefit if they enlist or pursue a commission. Overall, the JROTC program plays a vital role in shaping the lives of young Americans, providing them with valuable skills, leadership training, and a sense of duty to their country and community. Is that time?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can finish your thought.
I can finish
Just
my
Finish your
thoughts.
thought. Yeah.
Okay. Pocatello and Idaho have a long-standing history with the Department of Defense and military. Pocatello has been home to the NOP, the Naval Ordnance Plant, and the Pocatello Air Base, which was the training center for the B-17s and B-24s. Pocatello is also currently home to a division of the Idaho National Guard, including the 148th Field Artillery Regiment. We said the Pledge of Allegiance, and currently this weekend, the Field of Heroes, an endearing part of the community, will be taking place that shows Pocatello's support of our military, veterans, and those who gave their lives for us. My third grader and I went on a field trip there today to help set up the 7,064 markers of those who passed away since 9/11. We will definitely be making a return trip to see it all set up and participate in the events this Memorial Weekend as we remember those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. Bannock County and Southeast Idaho are an ideal area for a community and leadership program for a city with a long-standing history of patriotism. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you for
Thank
letting me
you.
finish.
Yes. So next, we have Ross Cunningham.
I'm really glad you guys have this. I was kind of a little worried about that podium. The joys of being out-told by your fifth graders is great. Members of the board, Dr. Howell, my name is Ross Cunningham, and I'd like to first of all thank you all for allowing me to take a few moments of your time to discuss the FMS track, the Franklin track proposal. I'm speaking to all of you in my capacity as a substitute teacher at all 4 middle schools and as a triple jump coach at Franklin, my second year. It is also with a tremendous amount of optimism and hope that I speak to all of you this evening. Now, being in education, we understand that times, priorities, and plans do change. 6 years ago, there was a legitimate need for soccer fields in this city. Now, there are more than enough to service every soccer level's needs, from the non-competitive to the most elite clubs. And over 2 decades and some change ago, we, with the shift from the middle schools, from the shift from the junior highs to the middle schools, we ended up having to close Alameda Junior High. The logic at the time was that with the shifts to the middle schools, combined with population projections at the time, that we did not need a 4th middle school. It was just a few years after Alameda's closure that we realized we actually did have a critical need for a 4th middle school, and since then Alameda has served as a critical part of the district's vision for education in the city, and has served as a vital anchor for the surrounding community and its neighborhoods. I envision the same purpose for Franklin's track. Currently, it is the only publicly accessible 6-lane track in the city, and with two jump pits to go with it, one for triple jump, one for long jump. As a triple jump coach, I also cannot stress enough the importance of having intact, regulation-sized jumping pits that anybody can use. Field events are often the hardest to get students to sign up for, especially in triple jump, since most students are often intimidated by the mechanics of both the triple and the long jump. I will tell you that when all of my students, along with those at the other schools, Hawthorne, Irving, and Alameda, when they get their mechanics mastered and they start competing, their confidence skyrockets because they know they can work through very difficult things. And to see the looks on their faces when they pull it off and get over 20 feet in their first couple of jumps is outstanding. It is through strong coaching and the proper facilities that the athletes are able to flourish. And with the proper facilities, field events are not limited to those who command a natural aptitude for the event. At Franklin, I was able to not just work with just 6 or 7 triple jumpers. I managed to recruit nearly 40 to try out the event and compete all the way up the city, where I took over 25 to the event. And all of them did excellent. It is my hope that not only will this board support Franklin's track being resurfaced, but I always like to think long-term, that this project in the very long term might also serve as a potential template to revive Irving and Alameda's tracks down the line, should the opportunity present itself. Until then, at least having a 6-lane track with 2 intact jump pits will guarantee that athletes from all the schools, as well as the community, will have a safe, publicly accessible place to exercise, host countless events, and fulfill needs that soccer fields cannot. There's only so many exercises you can do outside of the field. At the same time, with the district saving over $100,000 on this project, it's a bargain we can't afford to pass up. Lastly, emphasizing this resurfacing project will allow the regrowth of middle school track in Pocatello in the long run. This sport is the single most important out of any sport to offer since it allows the widest group of athletes from all backgrounds and experience to participate. Members of the board, Dr. Howell, again, I thank you all for your time, and thank you all for the hard work that you guys put in, and let's go ahead and finish out the school year strong. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Melissa Snell?
I remembered my glasses this time. Okay. I'm here again to talk about the Franklin Middle School track. Surprise. Last week's, there were comments made that there is no need to reevaluate the project because no new information has been presented. And I'd like to address those comments. When this decision was made, there was virtually no parental or community input requested. We have invaluable information to present regarding how important track and field is to middle school students. It's a no-cut sport. There is no financial barrier to participation. Cell phones are not being used during practices and meets. It builds the foundation of lifelong fitness, and the list goes on. There's also a wealth of information from coaches, parents, current and former athletes, and community members who use the track. It has been almost 5 years since this project was announced, and in those 5 years, we've been affected deeply, and we continue to uncover new challenges from the pandemic for school-aged children. That information alone should be sufficient to revisit the decision. Okay, so I know that the track programs will continue to be offered at the middle schools, and I'm thrilled to see how many kids at all of the middle schools are participating. It just keeps going up and up. I do think that I'm not sure that it's really a victory for us that that is happening in spite of not having the facilities that would be ideal. I mean, our kids are awesome. Good for them. They're doing these amazing things and going to state, and even if the facilities are not really what they could be. But it does, when you remove the facilities, it makes it more difficult to have an effective practice. I also feel like it kind of sends a negative message. Football, baseball, soccer get the facilities that they want and need, and maybe middle school track is kind of down here on the bottom. I also think that it's more cost-effective to resurface the existing track at Franklin than to replace it with a walking path and a soccer field. From what I can see, the bid to take out the track and replace it with a walking path is estimated to be around $300,000, and that's just the track part. Then soccer field installation, maybe another $300,000, and I don't understand how that saves money. Whereas if the track were resurfaced for probably less than $600,000, middle school track meets could be held there rather than taking practice time away from the high school track teams. And the existing field would still be available as a practice field for soccer and football teams, as it has been for years. And so I'm tired of the perception in our community that it's pointless to try and change things in the school district, that the district administration and school board do whatever they want without listening or caring about the opinions or needs of the public. However, I think that we are all reasonable people who have the best interests of the students at heart, and we can discuss things without fear of reprisal. And I also realize that it will be time-consuming to reopen this discussion, and I am very respectful of your time. And appreciate that you give it freely. But I do feel like it would be in the best interests of the students of PCSD 25 and the community at large. Thank you.
Thank you. Nathan, I think it's Hooley. Is that right?
Cool.
Oh, I'm sorry, Hool.
All right, thank you. Sorry, yeah, my name is kind of weird to say, so Hool. I just was asked to come down here and maybe spend a couple minutes just addressing you guys regarding the same issue with the middle school tracks. My name is Nate Hool. I, for the last 9 years, was the head cross country coach and associate head track and field coach here at Idaho State University. Track and field obviously is a big part of my life. It always has been, and it's always been a huge piece of what has made me who I am. I wanted the chance just to come down and say my 2 cents as far as this is concerned. When I first got the job here at ISG, we were not capable of hosting an NCAA track meet on our facility, which was an embarrassment for the university. A couple of years later, we got a new president. President Satterley addressed his board and asked this question of them: is why is it that we don't have a facility that we can host a meet on? And the question was always money, right? The question for a lot of this is money. He said, now, if Holterino is insufficient to host a football game, what would you guys say? And the response was, well, we got to figure that out, right? He's like, it should not be any different just because the sport changes. And I would want to echo those comments from President Satterley here as well. It's with track and field being a sport that is offered, why is it that we feel like it is okay to not provide a facility for them? We can say, okay, well, there's other places we can save money potentially, right? We could scrap the basketball gym. And instead of that, we could use that for a wedding reception facility, right? Sounds ridiculous, but it's essentially what's going on with the track, right? So we must look at this and say, okay, well, why is it that a basketball student athlete would be treated better than a track student athlete? And really, there is no good answer to that, right? It's encouraging sitting here hearing that maybe this is a discussion that you guys are willing to have, and I genuinely appreciate that. But I would just encourage you to continue down that path. We trust that, you guys are very intelligent, wise people that want the best for our children. And I'm glad that you're listening to these comments because I think it makes a bigger impact than it seems. As a Division I track and cross country coach, I've recruited, in fact, just this last fall, 4 of the 11 men on the cross country roster at ISU were from this school district. That may be a good sign to say, hey, you're recruiting local kids, but I want to say it's great because we had local kids at a Division I scholarship level come out of the city. And seeing that might be taken away is something I think that's worth looking at again. So that is just my opinion as a citizen here, and I just want to just recommend that you guys pursue that and take another look at that for the sake of our kids.
Thank you. Christine Howe.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Thank you for providing this public comment opportunity. My name is Christine Howe. I'm a resident of the city of Pocatello, and I'm also a member of the Pocatello Running Club. I have come before you before regarding the Franklin Middle School track, but just wanted to continue to make comment to express the importance of this item and its importance for the community, and particularly the running club and the running community here. And I was heartened to hear that the board is considering revisiting this item and working to look at your protocols to address that. I think that is a great indication of your responsiveness to all of these comments, and really appreciate your time and effort to address this and work on that item. I did 3 seasons of track in high school, mostly as a bridge sport between field hockey and softball. And the goal of that was just to keep the high school resume looking good, stay in shape a little bit. Didn't think I would pursue track or running much further than that. My heart was in some of those other team sports. But in college, I didn't have the opportunity to play those team sports, and I shifted more toward running. And then after graduating college, the opportunities for those types of athletics are not readily available to adults. And I discovered there was a local running club near where I lived. So I joined that group, and since that time, have become an avid runner. I always kind of ran, but the community track provided such an opportunity for me. I've made some lifelong friends, folks whose weddings I've been in. I've seen them grow their families and have children, and across all walks of life, different backgrounds, everything. And so when I moved out to Pocatello about 4 years ago, the first thing I looked for was a running club. And I knew there would be an automatic community built in there. And I was very fortunate to come across the Pocatello Running Club. This was shortly after COVID, so the first track practice or meetup I showed up to, there's probably about 4 of us. But the group has really come back together since COVID, and we have upwards of 40 members on a Tuesday night that will come to track. And like I said, it's everyone of different abilities, different backgrounds. There's children there, there's older folks getting back into running, there's folks who have never run before. And it's just such a huge community asset. And it's provided to the community by you all as the school district board. You've kept this track open for folks, it's accessible. We have over 100 members in the group generally, so that 40 people could be a shifting group, and you're actually reaching out to even more than that. We partner with the city of Pocatello on promoting their fun run series, which I don't know if any of you all have done any of those 5K, 10K walks or runs, but those events are huge community building events. And, you know, aside from, folks can speak a little better about the middle school program and how important it is, but from a community perspective, you're doing great work by bringing everyone together, those without children in the schools and beyond, by having this track accessible and open to folks. And I think it's really important to maintain the 6 lanes to be able to provide that facility for folks. So instead of reducing and removing a facility, we just ask that you look into maintaining what's existing so we can continue to have this community resource. And if you're interested, Tuesday nights at 6 p.m., we meet to run. I know you all have board meetings on your Tuesdays, but if you want to come by, maybe not all of you, if that's a quorum, I'd love for you to come to track and just at least see who's out there and walk some laps. So thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Brian Letner.
Hello. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak with you guys. And I also appreciate you guys listening to our comments and taking that into consideration to revisit the Franklin Middle School track. Along with Christine here, I also moved out here 4 years ago. And the first day my wife was out here, she joined the Tuesday night track. And since then, we've made a huge community full of friends and just people that are help motivate us to keep running. We've done races together, like the local fun runs. We've done our own Couch to 5K program the past 2 years now with Tuesday night track. So it's just a great community opportunity for us to be able to get together in a safe spot and the only accessible track, community track for us. In town, and it's also in a good location. Instead of trying to go out to like Century or Highland or anything like that, it has ample parking. The facility is good. So we just ask you to please reconsider keeping the 6-lane track and just allowing us that opportunity to be able to keep Tuesday nights, keep the Franklin Middle School track and cross country programs going, just give kids opportunities to be able to do a sport that really doesn't require people to be cut or try out. They can just go out and have fun and just make lifelong connections that way. So, thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public comments. Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes. We will roll our minutes to the next meeting for approval. The next is the consent agenda, which includes. What was that? Did I miss something? Do we have another public comment? Yes. Welcome. I might have missed it, but who is it? Oh, come. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I missed that.
Is that the papers for signing up? Oh, your comments, okay. Did we get papers? He signed up already. Okay.
I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. As you know, I'm also here regarding the Franklin track. Big surprise. My name is Spencer Van Orden, and I'm a student at Highland High School. I'm also a track and field athlete, specifically a hurdler. I am the 4-time state champion in the 110 and 300 meter hurdles and the overall state record holder in those events. Last year, I achieved the status of All-American in the 110 and 400 meter hurdles. I hold the school record at Highland High School in the 100, 200, and 400 meter dashes, both hurdle events, the 4x2 and 4x400 meter relays. I have competed against the best hurdlers in the nation and held my own, and I have gained recognition from recruiters from more than a dozen universities across the country. and that journey started right here in our town on the Franklin Middle School track. I'm here tonight to ask you to please reconsider removing the track from Franklin Middle School. I believe refurbishing that track, not tearing it out, is the right move, not just for athletes like me, but for our entire community. I got my start on that track. That's where I first learned how to run and hurdle, how to compete, and how to push myself. Without it, I don't know if I'd be standing here today with the same opportunities. I worry that if it's taken away, other kids may not be drawn to the sport that changed my life. We have strong youth programs in this town for football, basketball, soccer, and baseball, and that's great. But for track and field, there's barely anything. The Franklin track is one of the last visible signs that this sport matters in our community. Taking it away doesn't just take away a practice space. I am aware that there are other tracks in our town, but the removal of the Franklin track sends a message that track is less important. It sends a message that kids who love to run, jump, and throw are on their own. On top of that, it's the only track in town open to the public. The high school tracks are closed off when school is not in session. When I'm training for national meets, I often find it difficult to find an open space. On more than one occasion, I've reverted to the Franklin track to prepare for off-season meets. That middle school track gives everyone. A parent trying to stay in shape, a kid discovering a new interest, a retired runner reliving their favorite memories, a place to move, to be active, and to belong. Since he is unable to be here tonight, my dad, Coach Mark Van Orden, gave me permission to say a few words on his behalf. He wanted me to express that he is aware of the difficult decision that you face. He is aware of the costs involved, of the need to maintain a semblance of fairness between the middle schools in our district, and of the complexities of managing public opinion. Still, all of that aside, he got his start on the Franklin track as well. His mom, or my grandma, Sherry Van Orden, was one of the community members who spearheaded the fundraising effort that built the Franklin track in the first place. This track has been a part of our family story for decades, and I know that we are not alone on that. As a coach at Highland High School, my dad has coached hundreds of young athletes in our community and guided many of them to collegiate careers in track and field as well. More importantly, he hopes that he has instilled in them values of camaraderie, gratitude, and living life intentionally with the purpose of perseverance. He has developed one of the strongest cross-country and distance track programs on this side of the state, and he would say that the biggest challenge he faces is in trying to draw new talent from the middle schools. It is especially difficult to sustain that level of success when the middle school track and field programs don't provide a real pipeline for young runners who tend to gravitate towards youth programs that have stronger community support. Removing the only accessible and dedicated space for middle schoolers to train and compete will only widen that gap. We are not just talking about a track, we're talking about a launch pad and a symbol. If we tear it out, we lose that. And honestly, I don't think we can afford to lose more public space that promotes health, discipline, and community. Speaking for myself now, I'm proud of what I've accomplished as a track athlete, but more than that, I'm proud of where I started, at the Franklin track. I would ask that you do not remove the starting line for the next generation of youth athletes. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have one more. Oh, it's okay. I've got a Paul Entricken. I'm so sorry. Trying to sound it out.
Yes, my name is Paul Entricken. I'm very intimidated by all the athletes here. My credentials, this is my 10th year as a substitute teacher. Every school, every grade, every subject, every day. I've been honored by your board to be a recipient of your PI Award in the past as a substitute teacher. I can honestly say that I interact with 6,000 students a year. I can't go anywhere in town without being recognized. What I want to talk to you about is math. At first, anyway. I substitute teach in math and teach math lessons. And I'm really concerned. I have children in 5th grade who know the formula to compute the area of a rectangle, but they cannot multiply 9 times 6. I have kids in 5th grade, 6th grade, middle school even, who add 9 times 6 and have to use their fingers to do it. I think it's wonderful that Savas, the tool that's used, teaches kids all kinds of different methods of doing multiplication, counting on, different drawing pictures, all kinds of theories about how to do these addition problems and multiplication problems. But I'll tell you this, In 5th grade, if a student doesn't know 9 plus 6 like that, we failed them. If they don't know how to multiply 9 times 6 like that in middle school, we failed them. I don't care how many strategies they know about how to compute mathematical numbers. We messed up. The other example I'll tell you, these are just examples of things, actually. 5th grade, twice last week. I've had a child come to me, I've written a schedule on the board, and I've had them come to me and say, oh, how much time is it until lunch? I said, well, there's the clock. And they'll confess, I don't know how to tell time. I just say, stop, put your worksheet down, come with me. I go stand in front of the clock and I say, don't you worry about it, don't be ashamed, we're gonna figure this out. Before the end of this day, you're gonna know how to tell time. And I teach them how to tell time, and I review them a few times through the day, and they learn how to tell time. But they miss this somewhere in 1st grade, I don't know where, and they're ashamed to admit it. Well, the effect of this is that I have so many kids that sitting at their desk, downtrodden and sad, looking at a math worksheet, saying, I'm bad at math, I can't do math. They're not bad at math, they just missed a lot of the fundamentals. And the schedule that's set up for math teachers doesn't let them go back or have the time to go back and teach them what they didn't learn in 1st and 2nd and 3rd grade, the times tables, and so forth. Is that my 3 minutes?
Yeah, you can finish.
It really concerns me a great deal. Second thing, science. I've been in 3rd grade classes where the Savage lesson, the one on the board, teaches kids the way to measure math is with a scale. This is absolutely wrong. We're teaching them bad science. 4th grade, the Savage lesson teaches them a better way to compute math. But by then they're all screwed up from what they learned in 3rd grade. Somebody needs to think about this. These lessons, packages that we're buying, are not teaching correct math, science even. Plus, again, all this dwelling on these different processes and different techniques of doing different math problems. The kids just have to learn the times tables because, again, they don't have time to do this, counting with their fingers to get to 16, right? It's just incredible. Now, I don't want to give you a problem without a solution.
Mr. Entrekin, if you'll wrap up in
Yes,
about
sir.
30 seconds,
Okay,
please.
30 seconds.
Okay.
The solution is we waste a lot of time, I'm telling you, my opinion, with flex time in middle school. I've got people doing knitting flex times, vacation, essentially extra recess flex time, okay? This is time that I think would be far better spent catching up with people on the math they missed and getting them correct science. They can learn knitting at home from grandma, okay? We shouldn't be spending our time in school with teachers trained to teach, covering knitting and how to do extra recess time and how to do origami, for goodness sakes. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, I don't think there are any other, there's one more public comment.
I did submit a request, but perhaps in the wrong place because my science wasn't very good. But yeah, I didn't just come here to do the Pledge of Allegiance. But so I also want to just talk very briefly about the Franklin Middle School track. My name's Tom Klein. Sorry. The other folks were quite eloquent. It was great to have super fan support it. I will just say that track has traditionally been an essential part of the athletic education of youth. My own misadventures in the middle school field and track day back in Ohio were part of what caused me to be a, up to this point, lifelong runner. While I recognize that the board must balance many priorities, track is a relatively inexpensive and mostly wholesome sport that can lead to positive lifelong benefits. I'm concerned about the loss of tracks. I hope that you will indeed revisit this. I also am a member of the, believe it or not, the Pocatello Running Club. And I am an interested party, but it is true it's a very much of a community building resource. So I'm delighted to hear that you're considering revisiting this issue. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And I think that concludes our public comment. So next, we have, we are going to roll the approval of the minutes to the next meeting. We have the approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Do you see it?
Say, Ray, you're usually on top of this. I hereby move that the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any opposed? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passed. Next is the self-explanatory reports. And then after the self-explanatory reports, we have a public hearing on the proposed fee increase. We will turn the time over to Jonathan Balls to present that. I think you wanted to start with the review of the fee increase before we begin our public hearing, correct?
Correct. That'll just be part of the public hearing. Yep, that'll be just fine. And that'll be just in the facility portion. So, again, the documents that are online in front of you and that we've published in the last 2 weeks of the paper. First, regarding school lunch, that we're proposing the elementary, secondary, and adult lunch be increased 15 cents. And you can see the current rates, which is labeled as the previous rate, and then the proposed rate there for 15 cents. The next one is for the orchestra participation fee for just those that would like to travel and be in these competitions. And this $105 is what all activity participants pay for sports clubs that travel. And so that is an annual amount, that $105 there. And then this final one, I do appreciate the heads up of the why. Why are we doing this? And it's kind of a evolution, if you will. 3 years ago, our rental schedule consisted of only actually 6 items. 6 different columns. We had an hourly rate for the auditorium and gym, and then we actually had a building rate that just varied how long you wanted the building. Several $100s for the high school, $300 for between 4 and 7 hours. And so it was at that time we realized, okay, we need to get a little more specific with that. And as we looked around the state and realized different options or opportunities we had there, we gleaned on that we really wanted to be a good community partner with some of our nonprofits and so forth. And so that's where we created the current schedule that has that separate column for anyone that has a nonprofit organization, a 501c3. And then what we realized in the last 2 years is sometimes we gave that a little bit too much away because we're not even covering our costs. And so that is really the why on some of these increases is to get closer to covering our costs. Again, we're not making money. We can't make money, right? We don't want to compete with our great businesses that might offer other venues and so forth. But as a public school district, we do have some great facilities. We just need to be able to cover our costs there. And so there in your packet is kind of the list. You'll see the existing fees in black, the proposed in red for the different spaces there.
Effective when?
So we'd like it effective, well, we say next school year, and technically that could be July 1st, but the board could, set that. Typically, it's July 1st there.
Okay.
Let me see, in my mind, that's when it was. Let me just, again, the publication is in front of you. It just says beginning the 25-26 school year. So, if we do have some summer rentals there, and it is a little ambiguous there. Does that mean, what does it start, August 27th? What?
Ambiguous?
Ambiguous, thank you. Does that mean August 27th? and for me, that's, whatever we decide, we can do that. That way, especially some of our existing rentals can look to see, well, existings would grandfather those, possibly, and we can kind of evaluate that if you'd give us that latitude, on a case-by-case basis. Some of those. But anything new, that way the new rentals that have typically rented maybe for some lower cost, they would have the opportunity to, if they don't want to pay these fees or help cover our costs, they would, could go find another venue for less cost if that's what they'd like.
Okay. Any other questions before we recess the meeting?
I just have one for clarification.
Yes.
I know on category 2, it says non-Pocatello Chubbuck area schools. So if the volleyball team is doing camp, we're not charging them because it's our school, right?
If the volleyball is doing camp, for example.
Yeah, if they're
Like
having
our-
like
like
little
our
kid
volleyball?
camp, we're
Correct,
not
correct.
charging them to use the facility because they are ours. right?
Correct. That
Okay.
is correct.
Just checking.
Yep.
Any other comments, questions? I will now recess the regular meeting and convene a public hearing to solicit input
Is this an action item?
on the
will
proposed
be.
fee increase and new fees.
Yeah.
It's just a special meeting.
Oh, okay. Move it on.
Hearing no comment, I will reconvene the regular meeting and close the hearing for public comment. Thank you.
Okay.
Do you have,
Nope, I just.
okay.
you'll
So then
have an
there is a
action
motion.
item.
There is an action.
Yeah, there is.
There's an action item.
There is an action item there.
I'm champing at the bit. You took
Oh,
my.
yes.
gonna say,
Oh,
you
I
can
got
jump
it.
on it.
Okay.
I'll eat
I don't have
the
a cheat
chocolate.
sheet today.
I wanted to give you a chance before, Heather.
It's all
I'm
good.
just, I'm winging it. Okay, is there a motion to adopt the new fee increases?
I hereby move that the board adopt the fee increases for the 2025-2026 school year as presented.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those
I
in-
just appreciate you answering that question on why.
Sure.
the
And I
increase.
appreciate the heads up
So-
there, because that helped me gather my thoughts and
Yeah.
try to be a little concise for you.
Yeah, that was just my only thing coming in, just being like, what
Absolutely.
motivated the change? And
Absolutely.
I think that knowledge is valuable to the community.
Absolutely.
So, thank you.
Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passed. Next, we will have here a policy about graduation requirements, and this is a first reading for action.
Oh, I think Amy was covering graduation requirements, wasn't she?
You're all prepared.
We both have it together. Like, I think, I don't know.
Okay. Good evening. It's good to see you. Graduation requirements. Included in your packet is policy 8203, graduation requirements. If you remember, the policy is related to the state civics test. At this time, our students are showing proficiency in the area of civics through passing their U.S. History 1 and 2 and their Government 1 and 2. And per the legislation, starting with the class of 2027, they will also have to pass a state civics test. The State Department will start working on that next year, and it will go into place with the class of 2027. Also, they added the digital literacy class and that we remember from work session, they added it. It didn't replace speech, so there's an additional credit added. And those were the major changes, and it's up for first reading this evening.
Okay. Is there a motion to hear on first reading policy 8203 as presented?
I hereby move that the board hear on first reading policy 8203, graduation requirements as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passed. And Amy will present academic integrity.
So also, policy 8507 is included in your packet, and if you remember, it addresses violations of academic dishonesty and details the honest and ethical use of artificial intelligence in education. And this was first presented in an April work session and heard on first reading in the regular April board meeting. No input was received, no further changes were made, and the board's being asked to hear the policy on second reading for adoption.
Is there a motion to hear on second reading policy 8507 as presented?
I hereby move that the board hear on second reading for adoption policy 8507, academic integrity as presented.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion passed. Next, we have the revised, thank you, Amy. Next, we have the revised Head Start grant request presented by A.J. Watson.
Good evening, trustees. Before you, you have the 2025-2026 continuation grant application revision. As part of the grant process, it goes through a review, and if you remember a couple months ago, you approved the Head Start grant application. As part of the review process, the Head Start program was informed that they are no longer allowed to submit a non-federal share waiver as part of that request. So that is a change, and as a result, they needed to change their grant application before final submission. So before you, you have the information regarding the request and including the full federal share or waiver or federal share request without the waiver amount. So the $708,000 or $708,887, and that just had to be added to that application. So that is before you for action tonight.
Okay, is there a motion to approve, or questions first, I guess, for AJ?
Can you explain that?
So
This money that we now have to?
no.
Okay.
So this is not additional money, and that's a good question. So as part of the federal share waiver, there are certain funds that are required to kind of in-kind funds, so volunteer work, some things that they don't pay for that they're required to, as part of a federal grant, they're required to provide that portion of that funding. And the last few years, really since COVID, they've been able to get a waiver for a portion. This year, they were trying to get a waiver for 70% of that. And so now they're going to have to reformulate their plan in order to determine how those funds will be received. And a lot of it comes through volunteer work with parents and families and community support. They can count those as, they count the hours and put a dollar amount to that. Some of the things that they do for facilities and other things that are provided by the district, they can use those. So we are not providing any additional funds from the school district in order to support this.
It's only in kind.
Correct. So they will be working, they will be working on revising that, but it just needs board approval for that new budget amount for them to include that in their grant application.
So part of the grant, though, will be to break down what that 708 is, because to just lump it into other, I would think.
They won't be able to do that. They have to come up with a plan. So, but we had to get it to the school board so that you could approve that, and then they'll work on that so they can get it submitted because it's a July 1st. We're hoping we get information back or approval by July 1st. So wanted to get it before the board. They know the amount, and then they'll work on the actual plan piece.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the revised Head Start grant budget as presented?
I hereby move that the board approve the revised Head Start grant budget of $3,544,548 and the full non-federal share amount of $708,887 as presented.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passed. Thank you. Next, is Sue gonna, Amy, you're gonna present this?
She had an appointment, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
And needed to step away. So, yeah, Amy
Okay,
is
so
covered.
Amy,
She's been.
Amy will present the New Horizons
Yes.
calendar. New Horizons school calendar.
Yeah. So included in the packet is a New Horizons calendar. The calendar aligns with the district calendar. However, New Horizons is on a 6-week block. So the board's asked to adopt the calendar this evening.
Is there a motion to adopt the New Horizons calendar?
I hereby move that the board approve the New Horizons calendar for next year.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion passed. Thank you. Oh, and the early graduation, policy 8205, we are hearing on first reading.
Yeah, so that's included in the packet as well, and the change to the policies is just simplifies the policy for early graduation, so it better aligns with Idaho code. This information was presented, Sue presented it at the May 31st work session, and so the board's being asked to hear this on first reading.
Is there a motion to hear on first reading the early graduation policy 8204?
I hereby move that the board hear on first reading policy 8204, early graduation as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I just have one quick question about this, and hopefully,
I bet I have an answer.
yeah.
No, I don't know if I do or not.
So does this also make it so that, we heard in the other meeting that we were lumping the early graduation requirements in together instead of constantly approving?
Yes.
Is that part of it?
Yeah, it is definitely a part of this. It makes it a smoother process instead of hearing it every time. You get and you can see it towards the end. The district's administration shall provide an annual report to the Board of Trustees detailing the number of early graduation applications that were approved during the school year.
So it helps those school counselors be able to, okay.
Process
Thank
it,
you.
yes.
Because before we'd have, on our agendas, would have these people are applying for early graduation and would approve it every time.
Every single time. This is more efficient.
So we don't have to do that according
Yeah.
to Idaho code, right?
Right, yes.
And that was brought to our attention by one of the counselors. So.
Yep.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve, to hear on first reading, policy 8705?
We already did.
Oh,
Yeah, I
I'm
was
so
gonna say,
sorry.
we have a first and a second, so we just need the.
Oh, that was our discussion.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passed. Policy, next is policy 8505, student use of district-owned electronic devices, software systems, and network.
We'll actually go up to policy 8705.
Oh,
I'm
I am
subbing in
so
for
sorry.
Sue. No, you're okay. I
Yeah,
came
we
up.
actually, we need to hear policy 8705 first.
Yes.
But
And
it's,
that student activity and participation fees that we already have a policy, that we just have a couple adjustments that you can see in there, that we can require legal support if we are remedies available in order to collect outstanding fees, and then adding orchestra competition only.
okay. So is there a motion to approve, to hear on first reading, policy 8705, student activity and participation fees and student fines?
Here, I move that the board hear on first reading policy 8705, student activity and participation fees and student fines as presented.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passed. And so next is policy 8505, the district-owned electronic devices.
Correct, and if you look at the backside, again, it's just adding that any use of cameras or audio recordings, just making sure we have that language in the policy.
So this is for second reading for adoption. Are there any questions for Tanya before we have a motion? Is there a motion to approve or hear on second reading policy 8505, student use of district-owned electronic devices, software systems, and network systems?
I hereby move that the board hear on second reading for adoption policy 8505, student use of district-owned electronic devices, software systems, and network equipment as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passed. The next is for second reading, policy 8506, student use of personal electronic communication devices.
I make a motion to hear policy 8506 on second reading and adopt on the third reading.
And adopt, so we just, oh, okay. So we would hear it, and then, so are you saying like make changes?
I say that we
Or
will.
whatever changes we have, and then?
Yeah, I say, we we obviously have a lot of input here and a lot of comments from the public, from the teachers, from the administrators, from the principals, and so I make a motion that we hear policy 8506 on the second reading, but but adopt it on the third reading so we can have further discussion.
Oh, okay, okay. So is there, that was your motion?
Yeah.
Okay, is there a second? I will second that. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 So.
What are we doing?
So,
You
I
just
don't
brought-
think I
jumped right over the
understand.
discussion part.
Yeah.
so now, this is how I understood the motion, that Ray is wanting, so when we hear a policy, there's usually a first reading and a second reading, but we can move it onto as many readings as we need, third, fourth, whatever. So Ray's motion was saying that he would like to hear it on second reading and adopt it on third reading. So,
Be at the next meeting.
so it would be at the next meeting, and that motion passed. So what we'll do is
No,
this
the
will.
motion
No, it
didn't pass.
didn't.
Oh, I
There was
didn't
some
say that yet.
confusion.
I'm sorry, I didn't say that yet. There were 3 in favor. I'm so sorry. We were.
Do we want to have some discussion, or?
Yes.
We said, well, we did do any discussion. All those in favor, we had 3.
I think we called
do
for
we
the
want
all
to
in
go
favor
back?
before there was discussion.
Oh,
So
I'm
there was
so
some
sorry.
I think so.
confusion.
We kind of jumped the gun a
Okay,
little bit
we're
there.
we're gonna do any discussion first.
I guess I'm questioning why we need to do this. I mean, only in that it's only second reading, we've got lots of comments. I don't want to lock us in that we have to approve it third reading. That's what I'm questioning.
Oh, no, it's just saying that we're not gonna approve it on second reading.
And that's fine. I just would like to make
That's
a
the way I
motion to
understood
strike
it.
that we approve on third reading.
Oh.
I don't want to be,
Then it
what
would
if-
just be sent for a third reading.
It would just be set, so we want to move it to third reading.
and that's
that-
fine.
is
I
that
just don't want to have that
a better
approve
way-
it
Oh,
third
okay.
reading.
Okay, so I'm gonna, can you would you amend your motion to
Sure.
include?
Yeah, no, I just asked Renee
To
the proper
hear
way to make
on-
the motion, and so that's what she told me to say. And
Okay.
that would be proper.
And so maybe could you amend your motion to say, you would move to hear on third reading?
Yeah, I'll make motion again. I make a motion to hear policy 8506 on second reading
And,
and have additional comment on it.
and I guess a potential of,
Yeah, an additional discussion on it, and so that we can adopt it at a future meeting, but not tonight.
That's, okay.
was that?
I just didn't, yeah, it just felt like we're forcing ourselves to approve it next time, and I.
No, no,
who
no.
knows?
It's
Yeah.
the reverse, it's the
okay.
reverse.
No, well, you know, we had
Out of
earlier
the
discussion of-
pressure of
Okay,
approving
that we
it
don't,
tonight.
okay,
Yeah.
So
perfect.
tonight is discussion.
Yeah, go ahead.
and
Renee, I'll second that.
We already had a
All right.
second, so we just,
The new motion.
we've got the restated motion, which is just the amendment, but we had a second from Deanna, so I would just call for a vote on the amended motion.
Okay, are we done with our discussion then? I don't want to, sorry, I'm sorry
Do
about
we
that.
still get to discuss these options tonight?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I just think, you know, we've had an executive session, and now we had this meeting, and, you know, I just wanted to, just in case, you know, we were tired and we wanted to move along, I talked to Renee about it, and I said, what's the proper way to make the motion? And she said, that's the way to do it, so that's why I did it that way. But I am in agreement, I think, with at
Right.
least 4 of us here, or whatever. I don't know, Jim hasn't expressed anything. So that's why I did it the way I did. And so we're ready for vote now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Facer looked like he had a comment.
Mr. Facer.
So-
Do you have a question?
Well, I guess my question was, so we're accepting the policy as it was brought to us by the committee, to be heard on second reading.
We already heard it. Well, we heard it on first reading. We are going to hear it on second reading.
Okay.
And it will go to third reading at our
Or
next
third
meeting.
reading, and we'll discuss it then
Uh-huh.
as the changes that maybe we
Come out
want to put.
tonight.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
If
And
we
it-
want to make changes.
Yes.
Right, and we're not locked into approving it on the third reading. We're just going to hear it on third reading at our next board.
We could approve it?
We
I
could.
mean,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
aren't going to be held to it.
Yeah.
We could, but it would be hearing it on third reading. So the,
Yeah, but we have an awful lot of options to look at, and so,
and,
yeah.
and a lot of motions that just got
Right.
by us.
And so I look forward to a nice discussion tonight, as long as people are willing to hang around. And then, of course, at our next
How long
work
can we
session, we
stay?
can talk some
Yeah.
more.
Okay,
Deal.
okay, so I think we had, we already said all in favor, aye, and we already.
Well, you didn't ask for any nays, I guess, or?
And did I,
Did we do the all in favor?
We just didn't, we need to do the all in favor.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passed. Okay, so now we can go ahead and discuss policy 8506, student use of personal electronic devices.
So I believe we have in there the first, the committee proposed, Ray's proposed, and then we have these options that we can be looking at, so.
So it's a lot of
Open.
reading, a lot of addendum items. So, should we just start with one of, let's see, how should we start?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I think I would like to hear, 5 minutes or less from everyone on which one they think would be the most beneficial based on public input and, we've had, I don't know how many emails, maybe you know the number on that, but which one they think would be the most beneficial to go forward with is what I would be interested in.
I like that.
But like 5 minutes or less.
5 minutes or less, we're not,
Set
and
timer,
it's,
Renee.
and we're only just, we're only just hearing what you want in the policy and why. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
So not what you don't want in the policy and not what you disagree with, it's just what do you want in the policy and why do you want that? Is that correct?
Are we gonna reference to any of the options or just start? from-
Whatever, yeah, anybody wants to do. Megan, did you want to start? Or are you
Yeah.
ready?
I'll open up a can of worms.
Okay.
So where I sit, I'm looking at cell phone policy 1, the one that the committee.
Option 1?
Yes.
Or the
option
committee?
1.
Okay.
No, the option one that I included.
The option one in the board
option two.
packet.
Like
Okay, so
this?
option 1 and 2. Okay.
Yes, that one.
Thank you.
Top one on there.
Okay.
The only thing that I would want to change, and this is really based on the emails that we've received from a lot of the admins in the district, is that progressive discipline resetting every trimester. I do feel like, I don't know, if you could get a speeding ticket every trimester and then zero out your points on your license, that would be really fun. But I think people will test it and really try to push that. So I think if we were to just remove that from option 1, I really like the academic exemptions with principal permission that they would have to justify and have it approved beforehand. I think that's it. That's really where I'm sitting. I really enjoyed the information that Mr. Knopf shared with us and the studies. I think I came in with a different perspective on those because I felt like it was a lot of, this didn't solve the problem, and I don't think any of us think it will solve the problem, but I think it's a start to helping them have that time. And I think lunch is a really good time for those kids. That's my only hang-up is we've had a couple principals say we don't want it during passing time, and a couple principals say we want it allowed during passing time. So that would be my question to give back to you, is I would like to.
It seemed primarily focused, the middle schools did not want it, in the high schools,
We're 50-50.
we're
it felt
50/50.
like.
Mhm.
So I guess I would like to hear a little.
It's pretty
more from-
predominant in the middle schools. I know that's what we're doing today. And so they felt like, for the most part, there's one that, I think I gave that to you in January, what all the schools are doing today. And that's what they're doing today at 3 of those out of 4. And they felt like that would be really a progression back if now that we allowed it.
Yeah,
So-
and
So we have in a general, after you make your presentation and questions, or we have some feedback too? or-
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I think we did talk about splitting out the middle school as a separate thing before, and so.
I
we could
was
keep that to
actually
middle school
going to
and then-
request that.
Yeah.
So where are you standing with that then? Would you prefer, or do you have a preference?
I
Still
mean,
the
if it was
hallways out of both?
Solely my preference, I don't think middle school should have it at all 100% of the day.
Mhm.
Um,
And that's what the middle school principals are saying?
Yeah.
How do you
And
feel about
I'm on
high
board with
schools?
that.
So should we separate our comments into middle school and high school, just so that we're clear on?
That would probably
think
help.
we're good.
Would that be helpful, so that then we know?
I think
So, or elementary, do you want to just say your elementary, then middle, and then high, real quick? Is that okay?
I think
Yeah.
that'd
If
be
you just
good.
clarify.
Well, I
since you
think
were-
on that cell phone policy option 1, that basically is morning bell to late bell, right?
Mhm.
I think that should definitely apply elementary and middle, and
Okay.
high school, I guess I would like a little more input from the admins on how they could implement that, if it were to be that way, or if they feel like that's gonna overload us.
Right, and that's why I had each of the head admins email you. Did you get those last week.
I've got them here.
You got
I
one
don't
from
know that I
Mr.
saw
Wallace,
Centuries.
and Ms. Brockett emailed you,
yeah.
and then Ms. Graham emailed you
Where's mine?
their thoughts, and all three of them at the head
You're
principal
talking about
position.
middle school.
No, high school now, right?
We did-
Mr. Wallace,
Oh,
Ms.
you're
Brockett.
talking about,
I got
oh, you're
Mr.
talking about high
Wallace, and I
school.
did get,
Oh.
Cheryl Brockett, and
Heidi
Miss
Graham.
Graham.
I don't think
Okay,
I got
so
Cheryl's. I will look for her.
I had Cheryl's too, if you needed to get
Cheryl,
it as well.
Cheryl's
I
is
will.
is behind one of them. There are two documents, so you just scroll down.
So all of the head principals
look
felt
that
like
one
the
up.
hallways were going to be difficult to manage.
Yes.
Vice
They were
principals
in-
at the high schools were mixed.
Yeah, they were in 100%
But
agreement.
the head principals
The
felt
head
like,
principals were in 100%
but
agreement.
reverse at
In
middle
the
school.
three schools.
I've got it right here, all three comments they said, and all three in the high school want to have it available during same time.
Yeah.
That's- Those are, I'm done.
Okay, so unless
is it
you
my
had
turn?
I wanted
Wait, are we
to,
going in?
Are we
order,
going
or
in my-
we
going
can,
over?
Or do you
but
wanna
I'm
go next?
just responding.
I
So,
don't think she needs.
Megan, do you, what, on this area, well, actually, I'll just say my thoughts, and then you can tell me.
But are you
If
going to
you-
respond to each one of us, or are you going to just take your turn?
Why don't you go ahead, Heather?
Thank you. I just don't know if we have to have a response to each person's response, is what I'm.
Go
A
ahead.
response to the response.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessary each time. So I am also in favor of option one. I think, I know I'm the one that kind of brought up, being lenient, but after reading a lot of the feedback, I also am kind of going back on number one, that we need to have it be fixed each year as opposed to every trimester. I think in the high schools, well, the second one, allowing smartwatches as long as they're in school mode and powered off, no earbuds. I did need some clarity on what we were really asking for in number 4, and Renee provided that this was not, the individual schools can't make up additional policies.
Correct.
That was my understanding with that.
Correct.
It has to be
We'll have a
uniform
standard for sure.
Now,
across
are
all
you,
schools.
is it policies or procedures that they can't make up?
I think it was in the policy that they could have some
Additional
legions, yeah, to do
requirements.
that, and so
I
we're
wanted to
just
strike
taking that out.
language.
I think having a
Requirements?
designated courtesy phone area is unnecessary, but I don't know. How does that get managed and created? I don't know. Giving parents, I still agree with that. So at the high school level, access at lunch only, not in between class periods, because I believe when they're in class, all time is learning periods. Passing classes, there was that comment that someone made about, if you end class a little bit early, then the kids are just worried about, well, can I get my phone out a little bit earlier between classes? Or then they're distracted by whatever they heard or listened to in between classes. It's just one more distraction that they don't need. They can wait till lunch. Middle school, bell to bell, no phones whatsoever, not even during lunch. I don't think, they're at a point where they're still learning how to use the materials. They're in a learning environment. I understand, that the high school principals are concerned about monitoring in the halls. I've heard from other teachers and principals at schools where they do this, and they have all been shocked at how easy it ends up being. And the teachers work together, the students collaborate, they're on board. I think they said one of the things they say is that parents are having more of a difficulty with this than the kids are. Anyway, I just resoundingly, I feel like this is what our community is asking for based on responses from teachers. I appreciated the video that one teacher provided when she took the phone and it sat there and pinged incessantly during.
Did you count them?
I didn't count them.
47 in 2 minutes.
Right?
That's every 2.5
so-
minutes. I did the math, it's every 2.5 minutes.
Seconds.
Every
Absolutely,
2.5 seconds.
absolutely unacceptable. So anyway, that's
thank
where
you.
I am. I don't, yeah. Deanna?
I'm just gonna skip me. Jim, I don't know, who wants to go next?
Oh,
Ray, do you want to go next?
whichever way you want.
Why don't you go, Jim?
All right, I'll go ahead.
Nobody
Well,
wants to go next.
I kind of agree with Heather a lot. I think that the reset ought to be once a year. I think if we give them too many options, too many opportunities to try to fail, they are going to take those opportunities to try to fail and try to get away with, actually, is what they're going to try to do. And if they only only have 2 options before they have to let it turn over to their parents in the year, I think it'll make a difference. And I think, like others said, I think the kids probably, for the most part, I know there's gonna be that 10% that's gonna always try to get away with everything. I think for most of the kids, they're gonna probably be obedient with it. I agree with the earbuds. I think it'll be too hard to monitor for teachers to see kids with earbuds, and we'll try to figure out if they're actually using them or not.
So are you saying?
Are you leaning
allowing
more?
them or agree with
No, I don't think that'll,
prohibiting?
I
Okay.
think,
You're leaning more towards option 1,
Yes,
except
option
strike out the first.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess the biggest question as well is the hallways. How are you feeling with the middle school and high school hallways?
Okay, I don't think there should be a free time. I think lunchtime for the high school, and I think what's gonna happen, I think, 5 years from now, when these kids have come through elementary and middle school and they get into high school, it's gonna be a whole lot easier to police and take care of, because these kids have been used to it. But I think if we read in that book, and like Heather says, those kids are gonna be distracted before they go in the hallways. They're gonna be distracted after they get out of the hallways and in their classroom. So they're gonna have that period be on both ends of it, that it's gonna be a distraction. And so I don't think we ought to allow them in the hallways.
Okay.
I'm okay with lunchtime, because we can't police them at lunchtime anyway. Half of those kids are off campus. And those kids are going from high school to PV Tech. They're gonna be on their phones too, so that's something we can't police, but I think we can while they're in the hallways.
Okay.
On school grounds. A private area for multiple phones, I just don't know that I agree with that. If we had one that was in the hallway, I don't know what they mean by private. Do I have to put a phone booth out there so they can close the door? And
Can I explain what, I think we talked about this a bit. In the office, there's just a desk.
Right.
Right there, right in the office,
Right.
and the phones would just be there, and they just don't have to ask permission. They can call, they can use the phone to call their parents, because currently, I know there's disagreement about this, but this is my experience with 7 kids, and it's been consistent, that they have to ask permission, and then why do you need to call? And then, that. And I would just like it to be, if they need to get a hold of their parent, they can just pick up the phone and just get a hold of their parent. So that's the way I understand it. Now, if anybody understood it in a different way,
Well, I
go
think
ahead.
if we just have a phone out there and we have it privately. and
It's
just-
at
and
the
kids-
office.
We just have a private phone out there, and the kids can just walk up there and pick it up anytime they want to. That phone's gonna be constantly used, it'll be a line, and it might not necessarily be something that they have to get a hold of their parent for. I don't think, I think emergencies aren't gonna be as much as kids will want it to be. And I don't know, I have a hard time. I guess if you had a phone sitting right there by the principal's office, just outside on a little shelf, where the principal or the secretary or whoever could see how much it's being used. I just don't think we ought to have a phone accessible to them to be able to use just whenever they want to.
Can I ask a clarifying question? I think there's a difference, Deanna, that you're saying asking permission to use the phone and the why. Is your issue the why?
Don't ask me, you can ask Jim what his opinion is right now, because we're talking about his opinion. So,
So Jim, would you like to take out 4 as well? Sorry, not,
Yeah.
yeah, 4.
I don't, I mean, like I said, I
5,
wouldn't care if
sorry.
the phone out there. And we could make it, I mean, we could tell if a kid walks into the principal's office and says, I need to call my parents, I'm okay if they don't have to.
Because right now, we do have
Say
that in all
why.
the offices. We have a phone that students use. They typically ask to use it,
Right.
and then they use it.
And
So they
and
don't have
I'm
to say
okay with
why.
that. Maybe we shouldn't have to ask them why, if they want to walk in the office and say, I need to use a phone.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with that, but.
Okay.
okay.
I don't think we ought to have multiple phones out there. It says multiple courtesy phones. I don't think we need that.
Okay.
There shouldn't be that big of a deal of kids having to use the phone all the time.
Just knowing there is a phone that they can use and maybe not
If it's
question them to the degree.
Right.
Okay.
And then they won't use it unless it's an emergency.
Okay.
And then I don't understand number 6. It says, to release the phone to the kids after second offense, So what happens on the third offense?
So on the second offense, it has, as written in the committee's proposal, was that the parent had to pick it up.
On the second offense?
Mhm.
Oh, I thought it was first offense, they could get it themselves. Second offense, the parents could release it over phone. And then third offense.
That's what they'd
parents-
like to change it to.
Right.
Parents could release it over the phone.
Yeah, the committee's
And
recommendation
then on the
was
third
for the
offense, they,
parent had to go
parents
pick
would
it
have
up.
to come and
Yes.
get it. Okay, yeah, I'm okay with that.
So you're okay with 6?
So
Okay.
I guess I've got a question too then. Are we going to
Yes.
talk about the procedure also? Because that's kind of a
Yeah, I
procedural
know.
matter. And so, are we going to do that as well?
That was just in the option 1, so that's why he was
Oh,
referencing to it.
okay. All right.
And I do think that the board agreed last time that they wanted to provide input on the final procedure, even though it's not coming back for adoption, but to give us some direction with how you want to end that, so.
Right, so are we going to do that this evening, or are we going to
Um,
put that off to a further work session, or?
Yep, put it off.
We
Put
can
that
put
off.
it off. Let's
just
put it
talk
off.
about the
It's a lot
policy.
to, it's a lot to
Okay,
think about.
so our next work session, we can talk about the procedure, is that,
A little
I
more
would-
detail.
I would be fine with that.
yeah,
We don't
it's
have
okay
a
with me.
work session in June, so we would just have the board meeting to adopt on third reading if that's what you want to do, or we need to schedule a special board meeting to review the procedure.
Now, would it be possible if we just go ahead and have our work session in June? And then it would just be really a discussion. It's really not for action.
Yeah, it would just not be your standard work session, it would just be a special meeting to review that one particular thing.
I
And
don't think that needs to be locked down until the school year starts, right? Like, we could do it in July or August.
Right, I
the
don't think
only
there's any-
issue with that is the communication plan.
Yeah, we have a,
Okay.
we're going to start right off the get-go.
And then, I guess we just need to know if we want an opportunity to discuss it at a work session, which would be called a special meeting. And that would be in place of where our work session would be, the second Tuesday at 3:30.
Okay, I'm not done yet. I got one more comment.
Oh.
I think we ought to make this thing as simple as it's been made up as originally, and then put it into place. And then in the first trimester or second trimester, we can look at it, see how the principals are and the teachers, and maybe we can make some adjustments. I mean, we can. As we go down the
Mhm.
road, we can make adjustments to this
Absolutely.
and tweak it wherever we need to make it fit for us better. But I think we had, what was it, 20 people on that committee? We had 20 people that spent
14,
14? We spent
16.
only 14?
16, but yeah.
14.
Okay. Well, we had these people on that committee that spent a lot of hours trying to come up with this, and if we go through and change the whole thing up and down, I think, why do we have a committee? Why don't we just come up with our own? But I think we ought to, well, I can't think of what I want, but we ought to appreciate what they've done and honor what they've done and make it as simple changes as we can, and then try this policy, see how it works, and if we need to make some changes, then we can make changes down the road, bring it back to us and tweak it wherever we need to. But personally, as I read through the policy, I thought it was a good policy. And my first thing was, I wanted to accept it just like it was, and then work at it, whatever we need to later on. So that's my.
Okay.
We're not making any more action items tonight, right?
We're just discussing.
We're not voting on it.
Well, I don't know what else we have on the agenda here.
Not in regard to the cell phone.
Right.
No.
We do have other topics.
Yeah,
'Cause we are-
that's why I wanted to, have further discussion outside. But it's good to have it now, and that gives us a chance to have a good groundwork for when we come next time. Are you done, Jim? Do you want anything else?
Yeah, I'm through. You can go ahead. I
Yeah.
was just, the only reason I said that is I have a meeting at 7 o'clock
Oh,
that I should have been to already, but I wanted to stick around and make sure that.
Yeah. Well, because of Ray's motion, you don't have to worry about
yeah,
that we're voting
We're not
on
going to act on this.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right. If
so-
that's the case, then I think I'll close my computer and I'll sneak out of here.
All right,
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're
have a good time.
Thanks.
All right, so my turn?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to piggyback on what Jim said.
I'm gonna listen to your comments.
Okay,
before I-
because I do think we should keep it as simple as possible, and I do think it should apply across the district as much as possible, and to all buildings and all grade levels. Having said that, that is kind of like why my revised policy actually made the minimal amount of changes. It just had the two things that I really feel strongly about. So if we're talking about option 1 or option 2 here, you know, as far as people are concerned about leniency with option 1 about smartwatches and school mode or whatever, I'm very flexible on that. I can see the argument against it, but I can also see the argument for it. Also, as far as the progressive discipline, I'm flexible on everything. But if I had to go with option 1 or option 2, I would say option 2 because I feel very strongly that we should allow academic exceptions with principal admission, and that we should allow access to cell phones in passing and free time for middle and high school. Looking at all, again, I want to say I really, really appreciate all the hard work in the committee because I learned so very much. But also, too, I've learned so very much from all the comments we've received from our constituents and from the individual teachers and from the administrators, too. And so taking that all into consideration, you know, I agree that in middle school, the kids are immature, and that I think that we should have bell-to-bell ban. I was convinced by all the input I saw there. I wrote a letter to people who commented on that. We had a lot of comments on the middle school. And to each of them who sent something to me, I gave them this reply. Thank you for taking the time to create such a detailed, convincing justification for a bell-to-bell ban of personal electronic devices in our middle schools. I performed my student teaching at Moscow Middle School in Moscow, Idaho, while I was earning my bachelor's degree in technology education from the University of Idaho. Things have certainly changed for the worse since then. Your cogent argument has convinced me that you are correct. I will support your plea for an all-day ban on personal electronic devices in our middle schools. So I think in the elementary school, middle school, cell-to-cell, bell-to-bell ban, day-long, I agree with that. Also, too, one of the things, many things I learned from the committee was the cell phone policies currently trying to be implemented in our middle schools. And uniformly, they are bell-to-bell ban. Hawthorne, no cell phone use anytime during the school day. Franklin, no phones during class, passing time, lunch break, or outside. Irving, we require cell phones to be out of use from 8:45 a.m. to 3:35 p.m. And Alameda, no electronic devices in usage of any kind from 8:40 a.m. to 3:35 p.m. And they're already trying to do this. I think we need to support them in that. I think they're correct. Like I said, I have taught middle school, and these people, they're doing a great job. It's a difficult job, and I appreciated their input, and I agree with them on that. However, when it comes to high school, I think most succinctly I could state it would be the reply we got from Principal Bradley Wallace from Highland High School. He starts out, esteemed Board of Trustees. And first of all, I think what a wonderful salutation. I mean, right off the bat, Mr. Wallace has, gained my approval. But he says, I'm in agreement that limiting classroom distractions during instructional time is essential for learning. And we currently have a procedure where teachers limit these distractions, et cetera. Pokey and Century are doing something likewise, where have their students hand in their phones to a designated location. I have no problem with what the policy said about keeping them off the person in a backpack or whatever. I'm not really concerned about whether it's in a caddy or whether we've done that. I will defer to the committee's advice on the storage of the device rather than a caddy. And Principal Wallace continues, I have three major concerns. First, we have students with adult responsibilities, like working, taking care of family, and other demands, who need access to their phones throughout the day. I think as these people, I agree with them, as our learners are entering young adulthood here, they do have jobs, they have responsibilities at home, they are getting updates after lunchtime about meetings, maybe even from their coaches or whatever. And, the maybe 5 passing periods each day where they have like 10 minutes, I don't think that's really going to distract them that much from a school. And I do think they are in a higher level and they're more mature. and they need to have the ability to do that in passing periods between classes. His second point is, he said, teaching students how to use their phone as a tool for their learning and in life is essential. A current example is how the ability and demand to use artificial intelligence continues to increase. Students will need access to their phones. Teachers at times teach lessons that require students to have access to their phones, again, teaching them how to use them as a tool for learning and life. And then he also says, as did the other administrators we heard from, that enforcement of policy in between classes would be difficult. Well, he's talking specifically about earbuds, et cetera. I mean, I have multiple comments here from teachers. You got to go. Thank you, Jim.
See you, Jim.
I'm going to try to finish up here succinctly, but my second point is, besides having the high schoolers only have access to them, to the phones, outside of instructional time and passing between classes, I do think that numerous teachers said that I would like to have the ability to, for, as my policy states here,
The academic exceptions.
academic exceptions on a case-by-case, let's see, it's important to use devices strictly for educational purposes during class instructional time, provided that clear guidelines are communicated to students and permission has been, and I would say prior permission, has been obtained from the building administration. What we have here, talking about a student teaching, a teacher teaching physics and how the cell phone is helpful for them. We have also a comment from a teacher, Mr. Reese, from social studies from, what school is Mr. Reese at here? Pocatello High School. He said, as a senior government teacher, we have projects that require students to do research on legislation and bills that are on topics that are blocked on our Chromebooks. As much as I would like to remove phones completely, there needs to be language added to allow for teacher discretion when it comes to phone use. Another says, sometimes students need to photograph their work in my art class and or send me personal photos they want to draw or paint, and that would reflect their art. We have, someone said he teaches forensic science classes. My students take pictures of the evidence they are examining, which is an important part of how forensics is done. They use their phones to take pictures of fingerprints. Those images can be imported into their Google Drive and enlarged and enhanced on their Chromebooks. My AP biology students go to Cherry Springs Nature Area. They're taking pictures of organisms, and they can upload them to iNaturalist easily. And he said, that there are many cases here where he needs to use them. We had another band teacher saying about metronomes and things like that. I would just say, in special instances, I would say, I think it's wise, prudent, and I agree that we would like to move away from these personal electronic communication devices. And for example, if we can get a camera for a microscope, and so they don't have to use their cell phones to take those pictures through the microscope, that's good. But for example, somebody wrote a grant for that at a middle school, and that grant had to be approved, and all those things have to come before us as a board. We've got to approve the expenditures for them to acquire that equipment. And I'm all for that, but I would say as we transition here, there are a lot of uses where these cell phones, in individual cases, really do help the educational environment. And if the teacher really needs them until we can transition and approve the money to spend any equipment that will take the place of that, I think that on a case-by-case basis, they talk that with their building administration, receive prior permission. I'd like to see that provision in there. So those are the two main things I want, and I'm really flexible on everything else.
So Ray, I just want to clarify, just to make sure I get your information down. Option 1 and option 2, the 3 things that are different is number 2, added earbuds.
Yeah.
Okay, and then number 7 has caddies, which you said could go either way, so not really strong
It just
suggestion.
allows it.
Right.
It doesn't mandate.
And where are you at with that? Because you commented that you liked what the committee put together, so that's why I'm clarifying.
Sure, very much so. I'll try to clarify, and please tell me whether I've done it sufficiently. Let's just look at option 2. If we're going to not go with my option, which is a little more, which is a less of a deviation from what was recommended than some of the things we're discussing here as options. As far as the discipline is concerned, I'm flexible on that. I think probably, in my opinion, it's probably good to do, as the committee said, and keep it on a yearly basis where they get a fresh start. As far as the smartphones and the earbuds, I think I would think that earbuds are generally considered a distraction. You can get head-canceling headphones, so if they're having problems with construction noise up at Highland or something, temporarily, or we could approve funding for noise-canceling headphones, which would help them, but which couldn't be connected to the internet or play music or anything that would distract them like that. As far as the smartwatches, some people are in favor of that, and I'm very flexible on that. But upon further reflection, at the elementary school level, we had a teacher say, yeah, I have a student come in. I've read all the comments, all of them, and I've taken them all seriously and appreciate the comments. But they said, we have a student come in, they've got a smartphone on, it's an Apple Watch, it's in school mode, but if we have fire drill or something, the teacher is immediately texting the student, where are you, what's happening, and while they're here in school. So I can see the logic of, and as Jim said, the simplicity of something that is uniform across the district, all grade levels as much as possible, all buildings as much as possible. I can see the logic and say, okay, you can bring your smartphone to school, but turn it off, put it in your backpack. At the end of the school day, you can turn it back on and put it on, and the parent can see, okay, they came to school. I don't have to track them every minute they're there. And now it's on again, and I can see they're safe, and I can watch them ride home, et cetera. So I'm willing to, again, I'm flexible on that, but I could see the reason why to stick with no smartwatches there. Again, I want the academic exceptions. I do agree that we should remove a provision about further rules being implemented. I think the wording on the
Several and multiple and private.
Right here.
Yeah, it says violations of this policy may lead to, no, that's not it.
The school's implementing further.
Let me have a look here.
You said you liked option 2, like I know you've read through them. I just wanted to clarify what the 2, 7, and 8 that was different from option 1.
He did his own revision, so it wasn't 1 or 2.
Yeah, I didn't, mine was, like I say, more, less flexible than what some of the
I
people were
think
saying
the
here.
only difference in the one that Ray proposed
Oh, yeah,
was
here.
that it allowed the high school passing time, so
Right.
hallways, and then it allowed the academic exception.
Yeah, this is the thing I have here, which I X'd out in my, was say,
Okay.
further, students shall comply with any additional rules developed by the school concerning the appropriate use of personal electronic
Okay.
communication
Yeah,
devices.
and I think that's in both of them, so yes.
Yeah, so I would, I'm opposed to that, because I think we come up with a policy which is as simple as possible and as comprehensive as possible. And I don't want to say, well, we're going to come up with something additional in the future, and that's written right into the policy, because the public hasn't had a chance to comment on that.
Thank you.
That was a robust 5 minutes.
Yeah, there you go.
I got it. Thank you.
But there you go.
Anything else? You're good? All right, so I'm going to break mine out into elementary, middle, and high school because they're completely different. Elementary, I do think that there were several, I'll go back and count how many, parents that were very passionate about the fact that they have purchased this watch to keep their child safe, and they track their child on the way to and from school. They walk. They aren't taking the bus, they, can't be there always at the crossroads, everywhere, and they want to be able to see where their child is. I would never even think of interfering with that. So I think that the watches at the elementary level, provided they're in school mode, but as with anything, if there's a distraction of pencil, a tennis ball, it doesn't really matter what the distraction is. They have to go put it in their backpack. And so I just think it's kind of more common sense that if there is something, whether it's a watch or whether it's a tennis ball, that is causing a distraction, the parents are going to have to, I would, maybe if I was a teacher at an elementary, and maybe this could be included in the policy, that, just in agreement, that if it becomes a distraction, and you're aware, it'll be put in the backpack, not taken away from them. So it'll still remain with them, so on their way to and from school, they will still be able to track them for safety purposes. It will never be taken away from them. But I don't think that anything should be causing a distraction, whether it's shoelaces or a phone or a watch. So middle school, the courtesy phone at the office, absolutely agree with that. I also think that if there's just a space right there by the office, if they need to respond to a text from a parent, I think it's appropriate to step into the office or whatever and just, I need to respond to my mom or whatever, check, and that's fine. I just don't want unsupervised, scrolling. I don't want them to have to check their phone in the bathroom. Things like that about, picking them up at school. The fact is that we live in a day and age where we need communication. We just do. And so I think if they do need to check a phone, I think to allow them a safe space where they can, but that doesn't include bathrooms and, everything else. I think it's appropriate in middle school that they don't have it during the day. They keep it in their backpack.
So not in the hallways or
I
anything?
don't think that they should have it taken away from them. I think they should have to, you put it in your backpack and you don't get it out. And if there's insubordination, if they refuse to put it in the backpack, repeated violations, I love I'll say which one it is. The West Ada policy is, I really like this. The enforcement is in the policy, not in a procedure that's separate. So the enforcement doesn't change with whenever, because the procedure doesn't come back to the board for changes. It's the policy that the board is approving. We're not even voting on the procedure. I don't know if everybody realized that. But we're not even voting on the procedure. And so to talk about it is like whatever. But I actually think the enforcement should be in the policy, and it should say, I really like that what it says is West Ada personnel are mandated to rigorously enforce this policy and administrative regulations within their classroom. Repeated or egregious violations will be promptly escalated to the building's admin for future action using the discipline matrix. I just do not think they should be able to be insubordinate, refusing to put their phone away or repeated, we shouldn't have to be tracking, you had one warning in August. Now it's May. I don't know. I mean, do they have to go to their computer and find that out? To me, I just think as a teacher, and Mary McGrory talked about this, you have to be responsible for your classroom management. And if there is any problem, it's got to be into the discipline matrix. No insubordinate behavior is allowed. So to me, I would like the enforcement to be in the policy. That's the first thing. And the second thing is I like the way that West Ada's is worded, that it's not one warning, two warning. I just do not even know as a teacher how I would even keep track of that, honestly. But if I know that there's somebody that's been repeatedly doing this, I'd say, you know what, you had a warning. I've given you a warning. And now,
I think the office keeps track of that. But
So, yeah, I would want them to be able to, to have administrative support if I had a child who was really not following the policy. So that, to me, is what I would want. So that's middle school.
Can you clarify that? Because that's not how I interpreted it.
So
That the teacher is not the one keeping track.
no, the offices. So
In
it'd be
Infinite
administration.
Campus,
Right.
And teacher
which is on
doesn't-
the computer.
Teacher
They
doesn't
send them to
put
the
things in
office.
Infinite Campus, only administration for
Oh.
behaviors. So
For
all
behaviors,
well,
okay, so all
behaviors
the
or
tardies and all
insubordination.
the other stuff, it wouldn't be included in that the teacher would
All
enter?
tardies and all absences are put in by administration.
Okay, I guess it starts with
Teachers don't
teacher.
put in anything in behaviors.
Okay, so when they
So
do
that's
their
already-
attendance, they're just sending it to the office and the admin puts it in?
Correct.
Okay, so it would be the same with the cell phone. It would
Correct.
end up in Infinite Campus. I
Through
guess it starts at the
administration.
teacher, but they're just sending it to the admin to put it
Correct.
into admin. Okay. All right, so kind of, I mean, I guess a small detail. At high school, I agree with what Bradley Wallace said. You know, some of these kids are even married. You know, I mean, they might even have a baby or something, and they are adults, a lot of them are, and they have adult responsibilities, and some of them have jobs, and some of them are frankly supporting themselves. And I don't know if everybody is really fully appreciating the fact that not every high school kid is supported by parents.
So you agree with the hallways?
So I want them to be able to access in the hallways. I don't want distractions in the classes, and I don't think the phone should be taken from the child in high school. Well, actually, it should be put in their backpack at any level, because it's an important thing for safety for them to have, especially when they take it home and they're tracking their location to get home safely. That's something that I don't think we should take away from them, but we also should not allow them to misbehave with it. So, you know, if they are misbehaving with it, what I mean by getting into the discipline matrix, parents are notified. And they say, you can't, this is behavior that's unacceptable. You know, it's in the discipline matrix. It doesn't, it still would be, you know, that the solution to this is you put it in your backpack and you don't get it out. And if you don't do that, then escalates into whatever that needs to escalate to at the administration level.
Which could be taken.
Can I ask another clarifying question? Because I don't think we understand
maybe.
each other. Well, you're saying safety going home. My understanding is there is nothing that will be left overnight.
Correct.
So as far as anyone leaving the school, they will always have their device when they leave.
Correct.
Unless it's with parent approval that it's released.
Well, we have to contact the parent on the second one. And the
Right.
third.
And so if a parent is not able to be contacted, then what? Is it
that's
left there?
They
I'm
could-
asking Tanya,
They could
then what?
email the parent, just as
Well,
long as they're.
I'm just saying, there are lots of ways to get a hold of a parent, and the office, in my opinion, has a lot more things to do.
Sometimes the
than
kids will
that.
call on their own phones to get the parent because they'll answer.
Right, right, and I get that.
So
but
we very, very
but in
seldom
the
keep a
case where their
phone.
parent is not able to be contacted.
We don't do that today. We don't keep phones overnight. We really do make sure that the
Okay,
kids
so
have
I
a
think
phone.
that should be specified, that it is, and they might end up in the discipline matrix,
Mm-hmm.
they're not allowed to disobey the rules.
Right.
But I don't think that taking that, because it can be a safety concern. And I would like to ask our lawyers some questions about it, because if an adult who is 18 years old loses their job because their phone was taken away from them, and that's only one example of 1,000 that I could say. But I wonder who is, if that is something that they could be liable for. The results of taking away. I'm not really concerned about the safety of the actual phone. I'm more concerned about what were the repercussions for having taken that device away. Did they not make it home safely? Did they lose their job? Was there a very important message that they then missed because it was taken away? I think that that's a real thing as far as.
From my understanding, and Doug can correct me if I'm wrong, they don't have to bring a phone to school. And so the fact that they choose to bring a phone to school.
That's a different part of libel. Now, that's for the device, and I am fully aware of that, and that the governor specified that and clarified that.
Mm-hmm.
The school is not responsible for purchasing a new phone for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's not at all what I'm talking about. I'm talking about situations that arise because they did not have their phone. So it's a different thing.
Responsibility.
So,
So I think
anyway,
if we
that's,
leave it
that's
to the
my opinion. That's
disciplinary
my-
matrix, I think we could cover it in that.
We could, because I don't think it would be including it necessarily, I don't think it necessarily needs to include locking it in the office. They can still be in a whole lot of trouble. And, anyway, with, as high school kids. But like I said, with the discipline matrix, if they're misusing in some illegal way or bullying way or any kind of, you're crossing a line using anything. You're using your shoe. It doesn't matter what it is. If you're using something to harm someone, that's an entirely different thing.
Okay.
And that's included in the discipline matrix. So in that case, it probably could be taken away. It would be able to be taken away. And,
Okay.
but it's covered is what I'm saying.
Okay.
So, and not just like looking at a text, that isn't in and of itself something that, in my opinion, should result in taking it and locking it.
Okay.
But anyway, but in general, I think that something that we certainly all agree upon is that they're a distraction in class, and teachers need support. We need to tell, this policy needs to be consistently enforced that cell phones are not allowed in class. I don't want my children to be able to be scrolling unsupervised, and no one supervising them. So I think that that's the one thing that we all do agree upon, is that the harmful effects of unsupervised use of cell phones, I think that that's something that I think most people are in agreement with, but there is a very big difference in the Pew research that Ray shared with us. It says roughly 7 in 10 Americans support, and I found this in the comments too, and that's why I feel like it's relevant. Roughly 7 in 10 Americans support a cell phone ban during class, but only about a third favor the all-day ban. But then it also goes into talking about the safety of, they want that phone accessible in case of an emergency. So, and that was something I brought up in our last board meeting as well, is that there's a state law in Utah. I don't know if they adopted or if they were just considering it, that just said that, the bans, they could ban them, but they had to have, every school had to have in place a way for the kids to be able to access their personal electronic device in case of an emergency. And I think every parent, but one or two, I think, in the comments, but, I think that was what I got anyway.
Okay.
I think I covered all the, let me just be sure that, there wasn't anything else on the options. Oh, smartwatches to be powered off, but allowed. And I think that's it. I think I covered everything.
Thanks, Tina.
So, so I think everyone's had a chance to share their 2 cents and.
I guess I've got a question.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Tanya can answer this or someone else can answer. How often do we have internet outages and that affects classroom instruction?
I don't think we have outages very often. I know we've had more recently because of Highland High School's construction. But typically maybe a handful time throughout the school year would be
So
my.
prior to the last year, it was more frequent, but we've since changed providers, and so it's less often. I would say probably in the last year, 3 to 4.
Yes.
Okay.
Now-
Wow,
now is
it's
that-
district-wide?
That's
Yeah.
what I was gonna ask.
Okay.
Because I thought it varied
But
based on
oftentimes, we have
school.
that resolved within the first hour of the day. Once we're made aware, we can start making contacts, or contacts have been made through the night, because they all have security and alarm settings.
Right.
And so the tech team is usually on it quite quickly as soon as
Right.
they receive those notices.
I noticed two comments that we got not too long ago. It was one of the last couple comments we got, talking about how many times during the day, and now I don't remember what they said, but it was somebody in school, at high school, and they said how many times that it was a day, a week, and then also a parent said that the phones are also connected to the internet. So if the internet is down, the phones are down. So,
It is, that's a correct statement.
Okay.
It's an
So-
ISP VoIP, Voice over Internet Protocol.
okay,
Uh-huh.
so that is true, that the phones are down, and so parents cannot contact other than
Are we
through their
looking
own
at a new
phones,
phone system?
Their own cell phone.
That would be the same.
It's not a new system, it's just a replacement of phones, desktop phones, yeah. An upgrade, yeah.
Yeah.
So I have an option I'd like to float.
Yes.
We're looking at option 1 and option 2.
Yeah.
And I would like to include for further discussion my revision, just as a basic foundation with anything anybody wants to add on to it. Because the two main things I'm concerned about are again, high school students being able to use them outside of instructional periods, and then academic. We know the last thing we want to do is adversely affect the academic environment, and that's why we're coming up with this policy in the first place. And so I do want the option for the individual teacher to appeal to the building administration, make a case for special use, and with prior administrative approval, being able to do that. And that's the essence of what I have.
in there. That one is there.
Well, I would say that basically what I do is I would want to include my option and just say it has the elements of 2, but it doesn't have as many of the restrictions in there.
The other.
So if somebody wants to add something into that, whether it's smartphones or whatever, I would like to have it as an option as a building foundation to work from there.
I would like that too.
Except for the option 1 and option 2 don't include high school passing time, just lunch. That's the only difference.
The number 8 on option 2 includes passing time.
Yeah, no, option 2
Is
does
that the-
include it.
Okay.
It actually says in middle school and high school, so I think we
Which was
kind of
discussed
need
last
to.
time.
Yeah, I guess the
Yeah,
only-
and I got everybody's
Yeah,
recommendations.
the only point I want to make is just that option 2 has more restrictions in it that deviate from the committee's recommendation. And so then if I think I've tried to stay in line as much as possible with the committee's recommendation, but just with those 2 caveats. And so if that could be,
1.5 is what yours.
yeah, and so that, well, 2 or 2.5 or whatever, yeah. Because it's basically 2, without as many deviations from the committee's recommendation as to option 2 has.
The other thing that I would like to suggest is that we have these policies, elementary, middle, and high school separated. Because, it's becoming a little bit confusing when,
I think the only thing
my-
you
my
had on
3 are
elementary was smartwatches. Do you agree that with smartwatches throughout all 3?
Yeah, in school mode.
Okay.
But in elementary, in school mode, I guess, for,
So
I
the
mean,
only, I
for all
think,
of it,
big
really.
differences I had for you from middle school and high school is the hallways.
and courtesy phone.
Would you want courtesy phone in all 3 levels?
Elementary, they should ask.
Yeah, I mean, they
Okay.
have a courtesy phone on the counter at the elementary schools.
Courtesy
They
phone,
just go
but
in and ask, yeah.
maybe procedural wise, we do ask at elementary level. Okay.
And can I add real quick, I didn't state this, but like that number 5 where it says outside of the office, I think it should be inside the office, so kids aren't, I don't know, calling 911 or Domino's.
So I think everybody's in agreement with courtesy phones. It's more of the questioning. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Yeah.
And she's saying the placement should be in the office.
Well, I mean, just like take that whole thing off and just make sure courtesy phone is there with maybe more detail on how we question them, how they use it. Okay. Okay, that's great direction.
Thank you. So now we just have,
Human Resources, Madam Chair. Next up.
so Brenda was going to give us an update on staffing.
Good evening. I just wanted to update you a little bit on our staffing for our certified staff. Since we've started hiring, we have 22 elementary jobs. We filled 13 of those elementary jobs with Washington teachers, 4 elementary sped jobs. We've also filled a first and a fifth at Indian Hills. And then our open positions that we have are first at Indian Hills, third at Wilcox, and a second at Lewis and Clark. And the great piece about that is we have so many candidates for those open elementary jobs. Within 5 days, it's 20 people. So that's good news. In the middle school, we had 15 jobs, 6 were due to reduction, and then 2 Washington teachers have taken 2 of those positions. We filled a band, 3 special educations, and 1 part-time science. We have an open science and an open social worker job, but that social worker job is a category 1. If you remember, that's just by code that they have to reopen that job, so it doesn't necessarily mean the person that's in that job won't have the opportunity to take that position again. And then in high school, we've had 26 positions. We filled 2 with middle school reductions. So 2 of those ones that were in our middle school, I didn't want to list all of the high school because they've had the ability to fill their jobs. So they've filled 16 of those positions. The ones we do have open in high schools are 2 science, a health, and then we have some of our PB Tech positions open. But again, a couple of those are category 1 or they're retired teacher. And so again, just by the rule that they need to have those positions open. We also have an open arches teacher position, a school nurse, and a deaf and hard of hearing teacher position. And as far as our classified positions go, we were going to do a job fair on July 10th. And so we'll look at those again, because a lot of times we don't fill those positions before the end of the school year because they'll sometimes take a position in the summer because they can't wait till August. Okay? Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Jonathan Balls with the Highland.
One more, Madam Chair.
We have
more.
one
Oh,
more.
And-
oh, I'm sorry.
Yep, I just have one more.
Delegate authorities, so are you presenting that first?
Basically, all of this is where starting tomorrow until August 31st, it reverts back to the superintendent so we can continue hiring those open positions.
So is there a motion to delegate authority to the superintendent to hire through summer months as presented?
I hereby move that the board delegate authority to the superintendent to hire through the summer months as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I meant to say aye and in favor. Okay, that motion passed. And then we have the Highland High School rebuild update, preliminary budget information, proposed bid awards, and surplus auction, property auction.
Okay, real quick on our Highland update, things are going well. It's a little bit schloggy over the rain from the weekend, but they were still working Monday morning and just have a little hose to clean off their boots and so forth. So again, the footings are poured for the gym, training rooms, and the hallways around the gym. Started on some ground masonry work around the gym there, formed some stem walls that will get concrete shortly. The plumbers have started doing their underground work there for the locker rooms, and then the concrete there will follow after the inspections and so forth. And so we went ahead and approved kind of it's called a mock-up that showed the different blocks, cinder CMU blocks, different patterns and colors along with the grout. And so they should start building up those blocks next week. And so we're excited and anxious
We'll see
for that.
walls.
Yes, we should see some walls there.
That's exciting.
Yeah, so we're really excited. One last, just a final update again, not a final update, forgive me, regarding the Bench Road. We still have an application with the city. It's on, if I could say pause a little bit. We have a meeting literally just scheduled that came across our calendars after talking with city officials earlier today. We're meeting with all of the city departments next Wednesday to kind of review any concerns that they might have, particularly the street department and the water department. And then that will hopefully alleviate any of the concerns there, and then it will be put back on the city council agenda. So
Do we have an engineering, we spoke briefly about an engineering design for the front, how that how the teacher
So-
parking and the parking will end up looking, just like the
Correct. So
design?
we've made some inquiries to get, it'd be an architect, because then they would, hire the engineer there. So we've made some inquiries, but nothing finalized. I will say, because of the feedback that we're getting from the city, we're thankful for the county. There's a specific division in the county that actually does traffic counts. So we're actually doing some traffic counts on that bench and fairway roads to kind of get a good number baseline of the cars that are going in and out of that intersection.
And you're just really talking about the Highland cars, really, because it's blocked off? Or
Cor-
are you
cor-
talking
correct,
about-
correct.
You're
Well,
not
it-
talking about any neighborhood?
It would be some neighborhood cars, anybody through that intersection.
So how would they get, are we talking about the same intersection to the parking lot?
No,
That dead end
no,
of
no, the light. It would be
Oh,
the
going
light.
up
They
Fairway.
want to see kind of how many people are in that corridor.
Going up Fairway Drive?
Correct.
Oh,
Up
I
or
see.
even turning to the right.
Oh, okay. So the people turning to the right would.
Correct,
presume-
would be our, what are we,
Oh,
our
and
staff.
I guess the credit union.
Yep, there's
customers.
that as well. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we're just trying to gather some more data, and I think that's really what the city departments kind of wanted to view there.
Okay. So do you have a timeline for when we would, approach an architect and get a design for that? Because if this
so-
meeting is coming right up, I mean, can we have somebody waiting in the wings that will be able to get that, move forward with how we're going to handle that?
Again, we've approached a few architects, and I'll mention those at a future meeting, or even next month. I hope we could, look at that, and then have that timeline. So no, to answer your question, we do not have a timeline for that. Obviously, it's not going to be this summer, but that was kind of our initial thoughts. That again, we'll talk about the temporary parking later in my presentation, the bids that we received for that, and then basically work through the SIP process with that architect and get feedback, so that way we could do that either the summer of '26 or summer of '27.
After the architect has a chance to make the design?
Correct. Make some
Just to
recommendations
get a
there.
little clarification on that.
Yes.
It's not just exterior facade, right? It's that, when we went and did that tour, they talked about having a vestibule type opening where
So that
people
will,
couldn't just pass right on in if they needed to come in and pay something or,
so
That-
that has been discussed. We'll need to, further evaluate that. It was more the exterior that I think of the Bench Road parking
I was just
lots.
talking about traffic and parking.
Correct. But yes,
But-
that would,
but that's
that possibly
also
could
a
be
good
something there.
Thing to think about, because that's a safety concern.
Correct.
So that design will all hinge on whether we can get the city to vacate the north side of Bench Road.
Correct.
So, as Jonathan said, we have a couple of folks in mind for that project, and they're just on standby, waiting for us to proceed through this other process.
And if I understand correctly from the feedback that we got from the fact that it was denied, it wasn't because they're trying to stop the process, it was just to get the dot i's and cross t's with.
Correct, and it will be
detail.
the city council that makes the final recommendation, but we want to make sure that all of the city departments are on board there. So yeah, there wasn't a denial, there was more just concerns that we wanted to address kind of face to face.
I see, okay.
Okay, the next item is just some preliminary budget items. Again, that we're working diligently towards our budget hearing, which will be in June, in the next June board meeting, June 17th. And so we've prepared some of these documents you've seen before, some of them might be new, and we can kind of review those initially. Again, this first document is just kind of, it shows maybe a summary of, again, the different salary categories, if you will: instructional, pupil services, administrative, and classified. Again, showing indexes, the base rates, how many units, and that's key in the budget. As we've talked units over this last year, again, we're budgeting 545. That's the real unknown. Previously, it was As I've looked at the history and, even pre-COVID, it was within 1 or 2 units, maybe up or down. But now in our current environment, especially with the passage of House Bill
93.
Thank you. 93, kind of see how that will impact as well. So again, that first part is kind of our state support that we receive for our allocation based on our number of units, our FTEs, based on the average reimbursement of our instructional. And then with administrative, it's based on their education and the experience levels. And that gives us our, and then with classified, it's a base amount, again, based on the units, how many they say that we should have, per unit. And that gives us our total state support, base support, accompanying benefits and so forth. The second half of that page is what we call special distributions. You can, again, go as you list through theirs. The college and career advisors, for example, digital content, early language learners, literacy is a large amount. This is where Mr. Watson and again, we pay for many kindergarten teachers and aides through that amount, and so we watch that very closely. Professional development comes through there and so forth. Again, those are across multiple funds, those special distributions. Okay, the next page is a very busy page. Again, this is, it's just called our salary-based apportionment and benefit page there. Again, probably the highlight I'd like to show is, again, per unit, we're given, 0.075 an administrator, a little over 1 teacher, 0.079 of a pupil services, so that's counselor and the like, and then 0.375 of a non-certificated, secretary, custodian, and so forth. And again, a unit is a classroom, as you remember. But that's kind of a busy worksheet that we fill out. Then gets filled out. Some of it gets filled out there for us. That helps us calculate what our projected revenues will be. Okay. The next one, the reports you have in there is the 100 fund, being the very largest. That first page is the revenue accounts. Again, broken up into local funding, state funding, just a hair of federal funding, and then the grand total. There, the 3 columns are, what we're proposing as a draft budget there, our current budget that we're just finishing up here in the last month and a half, last year's budget, and then the prior year's budget.
So these are absolutely all funds in it, and that's $120 million.
Correct. These are the 100 funds, so not.
Oh, the 100 funds only.
Just the 100, correct.
Okay.
But by far the largest,
Okay.
right? The other funds, how many are there? 32. Other funds don't even total this.
And how much would that total approximately?
I can tell you.
Are we somewhere between 170?
Yeah, I was going 60. Yeah, about 660 million.
There you go. So
Yeah.
there's where I came up with my $180 million.
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, you're
all
right on there. And then, and at the budget hearing, we'll show all the big totals there. The one thing I just wanted to, it's right in the middle of the local funding, is just the earnings on investments. Again, we've been benefiting from some good interest rates. And again, it's slightly down just because rates are coming down a little bit, but that's really a wild card. But again, those are some dollars. In the business manager world, we always say those are they're not ongoing dollars. But again, those are some things that we are able to use there. By comparison, I went back to, if there was a 5th column, that column would be $99,000. That's it. $99,000 is what we earned in interest in fiscal year 22. Whereas this year it's, well over $1 million, even pushing.
1.5 million.
Yeah, 1.5, and this year it'll be even probably closer to 2 million.
Wow.
That's
So
when mortgage rates were 2.5 as well.
that is correct. Yep, all the rates were down there. So again, there's, so as you look at some of these numbers, oh, we're doing really good. Well, there's you can't bank on future, future expenditures based on interest rates today. So that's what helps. Okay, then the other, what is it, three sheets are by, it's in our accounts, it's by object, and that's with salaries, benefits, purchase services, supplies, and so forth. So it's just another view of that. Again, these 3 pages are consolidating, if I remember right, close to 1,200 accounts that kind of, that first section in the 100 are the salaries. Again, you can look to see what has changed over the last 3 years and so forth. Again, in just different categories that we wanted to track there. The next section, the bottom half of that page, is the benefits. Again, I will highlight, per se is the retirement, the OASDI is your Social Security and Medicare, but by far the largest one, as you can see, is the medical insurance. And so where we're paying a little over $14,000 a year per full-time employee for medical insurance. And that does include vision. So you'll notice down there, vision is a 0, but it's with the state plan that we're currently on, that medical insurance has rolled into that amount, the vision insurance.
So the second column, current, that's just, so the full year is not done yet.
That is correct.
I was like, why are the numbers down? And okay.
Correct. So that's, did you have were you looking at a specific?
Well, even
line item?
Percy is kind of interesting that, why is that Percy's?
So what happened there, and that again, it's just a little bit of a budget, because the actual will be, a little bit closer there. So it was last year that we have different rates now for certificated staff and certified staff, because they did a huge analysis that say that the teachers live longer, but they retire earlier. And so their pot of money was draining. So basically, your certificated, your teachers, your administrative, they pay more into Percy than those classified staff. Sure. And so that's what I'm saying is, I think when I budgeted last year, I probably just used that high amount, whereas this year I was a little more sophisticated in my projections that I separated those. So it's, and again, the budget is just a tool. As you look, it's, 500,000, difference out of the almost, 8 million. And so, yeah, slight variances are okay, because it's ever evolving. Even the salaries, if someone gets a master's, as you know from our scale, they're gonna get paid more, or if they get 24 credits and so forth. Again, the second page is basically purchase services, everything from auditing services to phones to utilities, travel as well is all in there in that section. Supplies is the 400 object codes. Obviously, these are district dollars that we allocate to each school based on their enrollment, and so that they can, have some supplies to spend on their different classes, different organizations, and so forth. Textbooks obviously is a very large one that varies a little bit depending on the adoption schedules. Site purchases, equipment, there's very little equipment bought out of the 100 fund. That's mainly the 420 fund. And then obviously insurance, you'll notice that we did get, they're anticipating we'll get 7 to 8% increase. Okay. And so, anyway, so there's all the expenditures by object there. The next one is our school plant facility fund. Again, wanted to kind of give you an update there. Again, you can kind of see, there might be some variances in the revenues, but I didn't feel confident to show that as kind of a difference as of yet. Obviously, taxes are set there. We're going to go through, a lot of those replacement schedules, the bids that you've already approved, and you can kind of see on the difference there. We kind of shared that at that last special meeting. It's a little under, to the good of about 492,000 is what I anticipate, and that's still maintaining some reserves there for future projects. So again, if any questions on budget, anything, our deadline to put that in the paper, because again, we have to announce this to our public, is that first week in June. And so if you have any questions, any thoughts on that budget, please reach out to me. Appreciate that. Okay, to go through some of these bids, we'll go quick, and others we'll discuss.
Do you want us to approve the update, the budget update?
No,
Okay,
it's just,
okay.
it's not for, that was just information.
Okay. Oh,
You
I
will,
see.
yep,
The
you will,
next is action. Okay, I see.
yeah.
Sorry.
yep. These ones coming up, these ones are for action. So again, these are the last, or close to the last bids that you'll have. These are what we call supply bids. Again, they're just to help us get our supplies for the next school year. Like the first one is custodial supplies that we put out, many different cleaning and paper supply products, and the vendors, we got 14 different vendors back that give us their bid on all of these products. And you can see in the quantities that we had given, again, we try to do our best to say, okay, this is about how much we'll use of this paper product, toilet paper, paper towels, so forth, and cleaning products, and filters, for example, is another one. And this is the amounts that they have there. So again, the request is to award the bid to the above vendors. And so I think if I count right, there's close to 10 vendors there located.
Yeah, 10.
Primarily in our area. There's a few national vendors, but that's their, obviously they have a local presence there. So that's for custodial. The next few are for food service. The biggest one is some food items. Again, that bid is very large, 325 different food items in a variety of different quantities that we feel that we'll use. We've used previously and use this coming year. Again, so that you have that kind of that list there. Obviously, we will only order what we need to feed our learners, and so based on availability as well. But those are kind of what the prices that we use. Here's the vendors that we'd like to use in those for those different 325 different food items. The next is, again, more supplies, 104 different supply items. Again, if we don't need the supply, we don't get it, but we'd like to secure that price through a bidding process. And so you can see the vendors and their location there. You can see the dollars amounts, kind of to see how much our food service uses there. The next one is we single out bread, as we use a lot of bread. And so we invited 6 vendors. We received 2 vendors back, and so we'd like to award that to Bimbo Bakeries USA for be our bread vendor for next year.
Bimbo Bakeries, that's
Bimbo
an unusual
Bakeries,
name.
correct. Sara Lee is one of their major brands.
Oh.
So, yep, I had to verify or double check that as well. Yep. But yeah, they carry Sara Lee. They're a national bakery as well, but they do have a presence here in Pocatello. The next one is for milk, and as far as I've ever been in schools, we just have the one vendor, Medigold, for our milk. So, and our milk, just so you know, I think we don't make very much on milk, and the state knows that, but we still get it for the best price that we can. And so that's all of our supply bids, if you will. We have 2 construction bids to review. The first one is as I mentioned earlier, our expanded temporary parking lot at Highland High School. Again, this is This is driven or given to us that we needed to do because of the laydown yard that Bateman Hall will use the southeast corner of that large lot as a secure laydown yard, so that way that they can order materials ahead of time, avoiding any tariffs. We found out yesterday there are 91 truckloads of CMU block. And they'll be installing them just as fast as they can. But there's a lot of different parts for our building that they'll need to do there. So we wanted to expand this, so this will expand probably another 200 spots. They'll clear the ground, and level it, dig it out, and put in a base that we can use for future uses of there. And we were happy and shocked even that we had six vendors. Never had we had that many for this project, and you can see the list there. But we'd like to make a motion that the board award this project to Superior Asphalt for the amount of $130,000.
So they are not laying asphalt.
They are, so the asphalt they are laying is just on the outer lanes.
Okay.
That's, in our experience of these temporary parking lots, that's the congested area. That's the one that gets used, because obviously everybody is entering in the same spot and exiting in the same spot. So there will be some asphalt laid there to help kind of protect those areas from ruts and so forth. So, but yes, the majority of it will still be in the base material.
Okay.
Okay. The next one is a restroom remodel. So a little bit of history here. So we did Alameda's restrooms. And 3-4 years ago, and basically all we did there was update the fixtures, update the tile, update some of the plumbing, but everything stayed in the same place. And so that was the amount that we kind of put on there as the budget. But then as we kind of started talking about that, and we've had feedback from SROs, from the Hawthorne administration. Again, the bathrooms are a spot that there's some challenges. That's where the fighting is. That's where the vaping and the vape detectors have helped tremendously. But so we wanted to kind of give the board this option, and we wanted to go out and get some actual numbers. So we did have an architect kind of draw up this, and on this you can blow it up a little bit to see what that is looking like. There must be still a boys' restroom and a girls' restroom. But then there are these amounts would be for floor-to-ceiling stalls, or really rooms or partitions there that you would use there, and then to again deter any negative activity, there would be a camera there that would see who's going in and out.
Where is the camera?
So it would be almost like you're looking at that picture.
In the hallway.
To the bathroom?
Yes, it would.
I don't think we should have a camera in the bathroom, looking into the bathroom. Now, outside in the hallway, to see every person going in and every person going out, I understand that.
Sure, and we can discuss that, I guess, and that's what they recommended, because again, in the current bathrooms, there's some hiding spots, that has there. Again, it's not a factor on this. Well, I guess it could be. I guess it needs to be. But that's what we were told from the SRO to everything is that, again, we still maintain privacy.
Right, my understanding was, and I went with Tanya and we went over.
Thanks, Ray, please elaborate.
At the charter school.
Yeah.
That's why you have each stall is ceiling to floor. So once they go in the stall, they have complete privacy. But the view of the sinks and et cetera is there so that they don't trash the sinks or the soap dispensers or anything like that. So they have privacy with the ceiling, floor to ceiling stalls, but the common area is, under view so that it can prevent vandalism to the mirror and the sinks and everything like
Do
that.
they have cameras at the charter school? Or is it just open?
I believe they do, yeah. But you see, they have of course, what they have is they have,
Sinks are.
yeah, they have an exterior area. They have sort of a peninsula that comes out between the two, and it's right actually in the hallway.
In the hallway, right.
Whereas, if you're remodeling here, you really can't do that, so that's why they came up with this solution.
I would think, though, that you wouldn't have to have a door on the restroom if you.
Correct.
could
Yeah, no, and
look
that's,
like
you'll
that.
see there, yeah, wide
Yeah.
open,
Yeah, it's
wide open.
Yeah, every stall has a door, and it can
Yeah,
be
so
locked.
Correct.
That's why I was saying that. In the hallway, I think the camera would see everybody going in and out, and you could do a couple of
Okay.
things. But also, I have another question about the floor-to-ceiling stalls. I was thinking there was a huge increase when there isn't any ability to vent, because then each
yes.
stall has
Yep.
to have its own exhaust
That is correct.
fan, its own
Yep.
vape detector, its own fire.
Yep, they'd have their
Fire
own sprinkler,
detection,
correct. And that's, you'll see the cost. I mean, the 120 was probably from 3 years ago, so, but you can see it's definitely over double from what,
And
you know,
part of
and
it
that's
is
part of
that
that.
it has to have its own exhaust, each separate stall. So what about just having a cutout, that would be able to allow, like high, so that we don't have to pay for venting for every single stall?
So we'd have to go through, obviously, this plan kind of had gone through with the city. I mean, not to say that we can't do it like a change order, but it would change our timeline, for this. We would have to see if it would pass code, for example, right? I mean, with sprinklers, with, venting, there is fresh air codes as well, and so forth.
I think the logic for having, again, sealed floor to ceiling is that, nobody can come in with a cell phone and there's no gap. They can reach in and take a photograph of someone who's in there. So this is to ensure complete privacy and, no cyberbullying or, et cetera.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. I'm just saying with the cost, the difference in the cost, for allowing the venting between stalls.
And the other one is we wanted to kind of give, okay, this would be the maximum, but yes, I don't know if we could do that this summer if we were to make changes, from that. And so again, we've kind of talked about, over the past probably couple years, about these privacy concerns, about the things that do happen in the way of vandalism or some student
Right.
behavior issues in the bathrooms.
Right. So,
It just comes with a cost.
so this was bid based on the decision that it would be floor to ceiling and everything?
On the design, let's put it that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now, in this bid, does it include cameras?
It does not.
Okay.
It does not. So, that would, if that's something
The
that
camera
the future.
essentially is just the wash station area.
Right, I just
Yeah.
want to know if it's included in this bid. If we approve this bid,
No, a
is
camera is
the camera
typically how
included
much?
in
Yeah,
this?
yeah, typically it's not, but it would be, I think, even a one-directional camera is, what, $600-700? So. and
But it's not included in this?
It is not, no.
Okay, so if I vote for this bid, I'm not voting for camera.
Sure, we
Okay.
yeah, we
Well,
could have,
but I don't know what the other board members would have.
I'm only
Sure,
saying
sure.
for myself.
sure.
I mean, everybody can say whatever they would like as well.
And I, we don't obligate future boards, but this is something, okay, this would be the first for us. Again, I will mention that the main area at Highland will be very similar to this. The auditorium bathrooms for those auditorium will be at a standard, a more typical bathroom. But again, those will.
With the space above the stalls? and
Correct. But again, those won't be used, during the school day. But for, anyway, the main.
But what about
main
in the
bathrooms.
gym area?
There
Will
would
that be
this.
like these?
It's gonna be like, but then new construction, because I think that the wash area is a little bit more outside. I'll need to look at that,
You're
that drawing.
correct, Mr.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I remember that.
But to remodel, at least this will give us a baseline, okay, is this something we want to continue to do. I mean, this would be obviously multi-year to upgrade all of
And,
the
and
current
so
buildings.
then Tanya's been working on this and examining this issue for about a year now or so.
Oh, at least, I
Couple
think.
Yeah.
Well, when
years.
did you go? It's
Yeah, I
been-
went with her and we got a
Has it-
tour. The principal came and we took a good
Yep.
look and
It's been a while.
explained that it was a complete solution. They had zero disciplinary issues from it. That's what he said. It amazed me. He said, we have solved every issue
Yeah.
with this design.
Mhm.
And so, it sure made sense to me, so.
The one thing I do want to clarify, again, we did in the bid put for both floors, but again, our recommendation is just to do the one floor. And so just the main floor and see how that goes. And then if we, if that's something we want to do and the board decides, that we want to continue with this, then we move forward.
So to do all of it, it would be an additional
262, yeah, but we felt, let's just do the main floor for now. But of course, you can decide to do whatever you'd like. That is the number there. Again, some savings because they're already into the building and.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that question. Alt number 1-2.
So that's the second floor, right? So we have a main floor bathroom, and
Oh,
a second
okay.
floor bathroom?
So it actually would be a little less for the second floor.
That is correct.
Okay.
But that's because it's together, right? So if we were to wait a year to do the second floor, it would probably be closer to that.
So
Three
then
plus.
we're only looking at the first floor, main floor right now.
That was our recommendation.
Okay.
Just for the price difference, trying to be price sensitive there.
And give it a try and see how it works.
That's correct.
So on that note, with that price difference, do you see any issues with only doing the one floor, that all the problems then navigate up to the second floor? Like, I'm just wondering.
Again, I haven't, Dr. Howell, you might jump in there. Again, I haven't been a principal there. I would think that any mediation that we can alleviate would help, so this wouldn't require too much staffing outside monitoring, and that could be spread out elsewhere. Is that, I don't know if that's a.
And
I think that would
Megan,
be a slight migration to another area if
I-
we're looking for trouble.
I did include in the addendum a little bit late in the day, but I got an email from Principal Kessler
Oh.
and Deb
I was
Greco,
just
so I
looking for that,
I
'cause
want
I
to
was
make
like,
sure
I saw
everybody got a
an
chance to
email
see
and-
that.
Yeah.
So it was in the public comment, and it said addendum, public written comment, HMS restrooms.
Oh, I didn't see
Okay,
that.
where is
So
that?
that's-
Is that under the regular
The
public
public
comment?
/ written comment, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And that one got included probably, I think, about 3 PM. She brought that in. So I
Okay.
just want to bring that to your attention if you hadn't seen it.
Yeah, I had already
Saw it,
looked
and I
at
went
it.
looking
Okay.
for it, and I couldn't
Yeah.
remember where it was.
Yeah, Deanna and I got to go tour that building the other day.
Uh-huh.
See that. But I was just wondering if it would really do what the goal is for it to do, if one is one way and the other's still the other way.
It's just a lot of
I think as Dr.
money.
Howell said, I mean, you'll see a little
I
shift
mean,
there.
it's $500,000, so.
Correct, but I would,
Yeah.
I would hope that also we could shift if the troublemakers are shifting, then we can shift our good, people as well to kind of observe that around any trouble spot there.
Okay.
But-
One thing is, costs are only gonna go up, though.
And that's true too.
Maybe.
That's
So
true, too.
is it, do we have the budget to do them both right now, or?
As we've discussed previously in in a couple different things, and even as second to last budget of the, of that SIP draft, so there is some excess there.
Okay, so this is really a project that we can weigh against other SIP projects.
That is 100% correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
and
we,
which you've heard.
I would
comments.
actually like to hear the total of the other SIP projects before we decide, just because I don't want to, all of our money spend it
Yeah,
on this
so-
without knowing what the other
And
projects
you,
are.
and you have that, so that number there, so if I'm referencing this document, the school plant facilities fund, a couple different, the one that was approved and the draft updated. Again, those, I estimate it's about 430,000 that we've bid out, and I think if you review that special meeting document that we had, well, it's right here. it's not posted there, but I'll just highlight that. That's what kind of we reviewed before. You've seen that before. So it's, again, I'll leave it to the board there. I guess that's, our recommendation would be the single floor. Yes, costs are gonna go up, but we wanna make sure it's, accomplishing what we want to do. I will mention, as I talked to Tanya with Ms. Wilkes, the vape detectors have helped tremendously. That's another great thing. Again, it's a multifaceted effort to help curb some of this negative activity in our bathrooms, and this would just be another phase or a tenant.
I would just caution too that if we're looking at doing something over at Franklin Middle School with the track, then that's gonna.
Yep, it's all.
There's discretionary funding right there.
Right, I think we should wait on this until we have had a chance to revisit SIP. Because that was, I think the intention was that, I mean, with this, we're essentially revisiting SIP, but with only one option for a project.
Do you want to wait on the
Only
bathroom or just adding on the second bathroom?
No, the whole thing, because this wasn't part of our SIP this year.
So it was actually. Yes, it was.
was?
It was.
Okay.
Yep, and so that's
I
that
forgot
bottom.
about this.
Yeah, it's,
So what part of it was already allocated? Oh, it's
so right there at the bottom.
right
Yep,
there,
so
120.
120,
over.
and so, yeah,
I mean, 186 over.
that is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. And so, and to revisit SIP, those that, in the budget materials, that, and just so you know that, I did put that full amount, because I wanted to give you kind of the large number, that 306 is in part of that, the replacement schedules, and that's where it would fit in, because we have, restrooms as replacement schedules, and Hawthorne was on here. We put it at 120, and just because we didn't know where the board would want, and we didn't even know what this number would give there.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, I'm just doing the calculations. 306, so I'll just say 307. 307, no, whoops.
Minus the 120?
And it says it's the bid, the solution for the total bid was the 306, and it was over 186,000 over the estimated capital improvement budget.
Of 120.
So if actually what I'm gonna add is the 187 to round it. It would be 187 over what was in the budget, in the capital improvement budget. Plus, if we did the second level, that would be in addition to, and it would be another
That is correct.
260.
That is correct. The 186 would just be and that's where, you'll see in yellow, that's where we're recommending just the main floor.
Right.
But
Okay,
again,
so
you
just-
can do as you'd like.
Right. Just to be clear, though, we would be spending $450,000 more
For two.
than
For-
what this was, right, the total, right, for both.
For
If
both,
We did
yeah,
both.
both floors.
More,
yeah.
and so that's $500,000 that, we have to weigh it against,
Remind me what was
any
left,
other.
because the other bids that came under, what was that we had left over? It was about,
So I put in the higher number there. This is 484 is 484,532
that we have left over?
that we had left over that from budget, and that's somewhat close. You'll see that's the total of, again, that budget spreadsheet was 492, but that included some interior requests that came in less, or that we actually had in two different places. So
Yeah.
No,
I-
I'm good with the bid as is. I just want.
Yeah, I am. also.
yeah,
I
no,
just want
that's
to explore those questions.
as is,
Yeah,
meaning just
I-
the one floor. Is that what?
I would
Yeah.
actually like to revisit the track first and see where we land if we choose to do the 6-lane track instead.
Well, if we did just the one floor, we still have
Enough.
400,000,
Correct.
right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Right.
480.
We still have enough.
If we
Or
do the
need-
one floor, so we,
Just the one
so
floor.
maybe we'll separate this motion out and leave this out, approve everything else, and then decide, I don't know how everybody sits on the one floor versus the 2 floor.
I agree with Megan.
Just-
I think we should move right ahead with the first floor.
The first-
And, because there's
So
probably a
if everyone
timeline
did agree,
associated
then
with
we'll
this,
go.
right?
correct.
I mean, they want to, they want to get moving on it, et cetera.
Yeah, that's correct. If we don't approve this today, and it just took some time just to get the architect to, to do that. But yeah, if we don't get approval today, then it won't get done until next summer.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
And it's been several years, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
It has,
not
it
that,
has.
not that the other middle schools don't need it too.
And that's
I mean,
true.
have you been in Franklin?
And that's what we'll talk about almost
It's
every
original
fall.
to the
It's like, okay, do we
construction.
want to do another restroom and see
Yeah.
kind of where we go?
Yeah, I think that's original to the original construction.
And it
of the
very well,
school.
it could, and I'm sure it's on our replacement schedule as well.
They're pink.
Yep.
Anyway, so we don't need to separate the first floor and the second floor then, because if I'm understanding, everybody's in agreement that if we approve these bids, it will be for the main level only.
Correct. Yeah,
Right.
that's how I understand it.
Mhm.
Okay, because that's what you're recommending, and
Yes,
that's
that
what
is correct.
everybody's understanding.
Correct.
Okay.
Are we
So we
ready
can
for a
just
motion?
do all the bids together.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to approve the,
Yeah, I hereby move that the board award the following bids as presented: custodial supplies, food service items, food service supplies, food service bread, food service milk, Highland High School expanded temporary parking lot, and the Hawthorne Middle School restroom remodel for the first floor.
is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passed. If there, and.
Okay, this one is super easy.
Surplus up.
This is our annual request that, again, there's those items that are deemed obsolete. They are definitely ones that we cannot use anywhere in the district, and we'd like to hold that auction there. Again, because our legal obligation is to offer this back to the public for purchase, and that would be Saturday, July 12th. If anything is not sold, then would be online process through July 23rd.
Is there a motion to to give permission to hold the surplus property auction?
I hereby move that the board grant permission to hold the surplus property auction.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passed. So now we're on to, thank you. Thank you for
Jonathan.
all the questions, answering all the questions. Board calendar, Dr.
Okay,
Powell?
thanks, Madam Chair. Board calendar, just a couple of important dates. Graduation, certainly, with New Horizon on the 29th, and then all day, Friday, May 30th, and you'll notice a change in the times from 10, 1, and 4. And other than that, there's a student discipline just scheduled. It's just for your calendar. I do not anticipate any student hearings on May 28th.
This has been interesting. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so the New Horizon, that's up at, that's going to be at the Portneuf Wellness Complex, just like last year?
Correct.
Okay.
And we can drive right up to the door.
Okay, I'll be talking with
Loading.
Renee about
The loading.
accommodations, et cetera.
You bet.
Okay.
We will make those.
I hope to make it this year.
Okay.
I don't plan on breaking an ankle again this year.
The day
I don't
after.
plan on it, we never know. but-
Great. Okay, trustee timeline is next up. Just 3 dates that I want to point out to you. First up, the petitions are already available, candidate forms. And so we do have zones 1, 2, and 5 that will be coming up this year. September 5th is the last date of file, and November 4th is the election, and then you can see some other items spread throughout the timeline.
Thank you.
Okay, and last item, I think Madam Chair touched upon it a little bit at the beginning of the meeting, and that is to schedule a special meeting to review board meeting policy. And for example, this latest reconsideration of a previous decision, and we had a little bit of conflicting interpretation of the policy. And so I want to get the board together to make sure that we all understand and agree to a process for moving forward on reconsidering an item, and then just some basic norms, practices, and protocols. So in regard to the board calendar, we hope to have another meeting or two scheduled here in the next couple of weeks so that we can move forward. And then I will get with Mr. Balls and let you know a date on that, when the work is supposed to start at Franklin Middle School.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Madam Chair, that's it for me.
If there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I hereby move that the board adjourn.
Is there a motion? Is there a second?
I'll second.
I don't actually think we have to do that, but all in favor?